Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 170. For those listening live, we're a little bit behind. We're having some internet issues, which is always fun. But I want to welcome everyone back to the garage. Tonight, we are going to be drinking the Yellowstone Select Bourbon Whiskey, straight bourbon whiskey. And we are going to be also smoking the AJ Fernandez Días de Gloria. So looking forward to seeing how those two pair up. And hopefully we get some customer, Jesus. This is the kind of day I've had.
Yeah. Listener feedback?
Yeah, audience feedback. There you go. There you go. Ryan Newman's here.
It's like it always waits until Wednesday at 7:30 to give us problems.
Mm-hmm. But I do want to thank our sponsors. So we have Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Thank you guys at Tinder Box in Columbus, Ohio. Días de Gloria by AJ Fernandez is from that sponsor. So they do the weekly featured cigar, which we appreciate. Also want to thank Altadis USA, the banner behind us, Romeo y Julieta, the Monte Cristo, H. Upman, among other brands. Appreciate the continued support from them. We have the H. Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez as well. So we've got a couple AJ cigars tonight. And then also BS Cigar Company. I got a silver on the table right now that's going to be made at the La Zona factory. It's a Nicaraguan puro, as well as the gold is available as well. And that is a Plasencia product and also Nicaraguan puro. So happy to have those and BS Cigar Company sponsoring the show. And then also patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. You guys can support the show, and we'll give away another raffle prize in between part 1 and part 2. Is that what it is?
Yeah, got the domino set and then the bottle opener.
Fantastic. So we got the Warhawk. So Henry Clay Warhawk from Altadis. So that's the bottle opener. And then also the Espiritu Series number 1 from, believe it or not, AJ Fernandez as well. Altadis, this domino set. So something you guys can win if you guys get a part of that patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast page. That's the way you can do monthly or one-time contribution. We appreciate all you guys' support. You guys are amazing. I hope you enjoy the show. And I'm going to go ahead and share this as we get into the whiskey and smoking the cigar. Let's go over if you want. Oh, also part 2 tonight is going to be about reprioritizing. And we'll be joined by a somewhat recurring guest and studio audience member, Sean Wilkinson. So he's going to pop on with us for part 2. Looking forward to that conversation as well. Shannon's booing him right now. That's good. You might be at home as well. I don't know. Put that in the comments. Let's see any booze there. No booze yet. All right. With that being said, Nate, if you want to kind of get into the whiskey, I'm going to go and do what I encourage all you guys listening out there live. If you want to go ahead and share the podcast on any of your Facebook pages or on YouTube, whatever you guys want to share it to, that's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so we are drinking Yellowstone Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey tonight. It's coming in at 93 proof, so 46.5%. This is coming out of Limestone Branch Distillery. It is a couple of the Beam sons, 7th generation Beam sons, Stephen and Paul Beam. So for those who may not know or forgot, the Beam family or the Beam name and distillery was sold to Suntory, which is a Japanese company. So it's actually Beam Suntory on a lot of their stuff. So Stephen and Paul decided in 2010 that they were going to continue in the family tradition and make bourbon. So they ended up breaking ground on a distillery in 2011 and ended up actually opening in 2012. They only have like 4 different products that they make. The Yellowstone is probably their most popular, or at least most readily available. They also have a special release of this that they do. They have a gin, and then they have another bourbon that they do as well. And but this one tends to be, I think, the most popular and most sought after. It's a $40 bottle in the state of Ohio, and it is a blend of 4-year and 7-year barrels. So not 4 to 7, like it's either a 4-year or it's a 7-year, and they blend them together. Most of the Beam family recipes tended to use about a 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley in their recipes. So chances are that's what they are doing here as well.
Say that again.
75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. So high, fairly high corn mash bill. But I think because they are blending some 4 and 7 year, it doesn't taste overly sweet like some high corn mash bills may.
Go on.
No,
I'm just sipping it.
I know
You're checking it out.
You're just like, yeah. So anyone who might remember a few months back when I think it was our 3rd year anniversary, I brought that limestone branch rye that they called the O-Rye-O.
Mm-hmm.
That was a special release that they had done for the state of Ohio a couple of years ago. And my wife waited in line to have Stephen Beam actually autograph that bottle and made it out to the podcast,
which was awesome. Absolutely.
I still have some of that bottle. But so I had this one on the table as well, since it was another product from them. So this is the first time though I think either one of us have actually had it.
Yeah, I have not had this to my recollection.
And they were recently acquired by Lux Row out of St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just reading it. Go ahead.
No, you got the voice. Read that back label.
All right. In 2010, my family and I founded Limestone Branch Distillery with the intention of crafting only the finest whiskey and the dream of restoring the Yellowstone brand to its former glory. In the spring of 2015, over a century after our great-grandfather, M.C. Beam, sold his distillery to Yellowstone, that dream came true. To celebrate this family reunion of sorts, we bring you Yellowstone Select Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. To the nose, it is... Should I read that part, or you want to go through your notes first?
No, if you want to read it, I mean, go ahead.
I feel like as soon as I say it, like we're all going to think it.
Okay, well, I mean, okay, then don't say it. They actually give tasting notes on the back of the label.
Yeah.
So.
And nosing notes.
Yeah. Nose, palate, finish. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Hint of spice.
Mm-hmm.
Hint of spice.
Definitely, if it is 13% rye, I mean, I think that spice comes out a little bit more because they are using some 4-year in there. If it was all 7-year, I don't know if it tastes quite as spicy.
Yeah, maybe.
But definitely get some spice right up front, and then just a lot of oak on the back end, and but in the middle, it's a lot, kind of a caramel.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
It does have a sweetness to it, but it's like spice up front,
sweetness,
and then oak in the back. So
yeah, the first sip had more sweetness, I feel like. And
yeah.
After they hit it, is that you too?
Yeah.
And then it has less as I take a couple more sips. It's more.
Are you getting more spice as you drink? Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
But I mean, it goes to show like every whiskey can hit your palate completely differently.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them you get sweeter as you go, some get hotter as you go.
It's good. It's not, there's a hint of like that vanilla too, like on the back end. No? What are you laughing at?
Someone just texted me. It's the mullet of bourbon. Someone who's
business in the front and party in the back.
Exactly.
Kentucky mud flap.
Kentucky.
You guys haven't heard that apparently. We got a 1090 in progress. Have you heard that one? 1090.
I get it.
You guys don't talk mullets much, do you? Huh.
No.
Just me, the guy with all the hair. To the nose, it's leather with hints of citrus and oak. On the tongue, it's spicy rye with soft cherries. That might be the sweetness. Soft cherries fading to smoked caramel, and a memorable finish, rich with brown sugar and Kentucky tradition.
See, and that's
Enjoy.
And that's actually different than what's on their website.
I didn't taste the Kentucky tradition, but I don't know what that tastes like.
Is that the Kentucky Hug?
Gee.
But no, like on their website, it says the nose is rye spice and leathered cherries. I don't know what a leathered cherry is.
I'm not eating it though. I know that.
I got the spice and I got the leather, but the whole cherry thing kind of threw me off.
That's like the sweetness, I think, might be that. I mean, they say what the citrus is in the nose, right?
Yeah.
But not on that. Yeah, I can see that. I don't know about the leather cherries. I don't know what that means either. But this is soft cherries as opposed to hard ones.
Yeah.
That's
and
nice.
And then on their website, they also say smoky oak and brown sugar finish.
It said brown sugar on this as well.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
And then the palate smoked caramel. So like caramel that was left in the pot a little bit too long as you were trying to make it.
Caramel by a campfire, man.
That's right.
That's it. Ian says that's the cherry you find under the couch after a week and a half. Yeah. Don't eat it. That's my comment there. Ian also says, second side note, did you see the post about Three Boys Farm Distillery? I don't know. I know he was saying that he had some stuff possibly about yeah, Ian, send that again. I didn't see that, I don't think. But yeah, so it's a good bottle. I mean, you said $40 in the state of Ohio, correct?
Yep. And I know I've seen it on the shelf several times. It wasn't really something I was going out looking for, but I picked it up a couple months ago, actually, and we've had it in the garage since then. It was just because every now and then I go into the liquor store and I'm just looking for bottles that we haven't featured. I still have a list of bottles that we haven't featured that people have asked us to feature.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I picked
look at that list just in case I'm out,
yeah.
Never think about it.
And different price points on all those. I mean, anything from, I think the cheapest bottle on that list was $15.
Mm-hmm.
So, list isn't too crazy. The people that actually recommended stuff, not all of it was over $50. Most of it was under.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sitting on this, and when I picked it up, the guy at the checkout was like, "Oh, where'd you find that?" And I'm like, "It's on the shelf
in your store, sir.
Like it's on the shelf on the top left corner." He's like, "Oh, I thought we were out of that because I had some people looking for it." I'm like,
know your product. Know your product. Part-timers, maybe.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, overall, I think it's a good pour so far. Sean, you're drinking it as well. Did you take a sip yet? I'm going to grab the mic and give us your quick feedback. So your little preview for all you listeners out there that this is the sultry voice you're going to be hearing in part 2.
Mm.
We can, if you'd rather not see his face, we can keep him behind the camera.
Or just put a bag over my head, one or the other.
I don't know about that.
I agree. Man. It's got a kick at the beginning, but not too hard, and then you definitely taste that sweetness on the middle and the back end for me. It's really nice, actually. I enjoy it. It pairs well with a cigar so far, I think. Too.
Yeah, so far I agree. Yep. Yeah, going into the cigar a little bit here. So the AJ Fernandez Días de Gloria, it does Glory Days, right? So it is something that AJ has stated that he wanted to kind of do an ode or a kind of a tribute to the glory days of Cuba, just the tradition of it, not necessarily trying to reproduce a classic Cuban taste or flavor, but as he talks about it, it's, pre-Castro. So like prior to the day that he seized power in 1959. But this is a Nicaraguan puro. So again, not trying to, it says Nicaragua right there on the label. And this is one that it's not only Nicaraguan puro, but it's actually coming from, I think it's about 4 of his oldest farms in Esteli. Mm. So he's aged it. When I was looking it up, he also said that this is stated that there is as old as 7-year-old tobacco aged in this. Okay. I don't know which part, but yeah, it's a Nicaraguan Esteli wrapper, binder, and filler. But this is one that...
Do they give any information like what type of seed?
No, AJ is pretty tight-lipped about it. I think it's a Habano wrapper, but I'm not totally sure. Yeah, that's what I think it is a Habano wrapper.
Yeah, it's got this velvety texture to the wrapper.
Yeah. But it's a great-looking cigar, as typically usually. AJ's doing some great marketing on it. He's got the secondary band, which is the AJ Fernandez. And then the primary band is I'm not even sure what this is going on in the picture. Looks like, I don't know. Is that a genie? No, I don't think it's a genie. He's got the coins like he normally does, but he's got the nice artwork. Not really sure what it is, but it is a very pretty one. The box is this really high lacquer box. I wish I had it with us, but it's this high lacquer, not quite this red like the Romeo y Julieta ashtray. But I mean, have you seen the box back in the humidor?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, gorgeous box.
Oh yeah,
Very
absolutely.
nice dress box, and yeah, got a real great box there.
This
is all right. Calm down. This is the Robusto. It's a 5.5 by 52. The MSRP on it is around $10. So on the shelves in Ohio, you're going to see it between 10 and 11 probably for this size. This is one that if you go into a store like Tinder Box at Easton, one of our sponsors, check out what they have. AJ Fernandez. This is one that they may or may not have, but definitely check it out because it's a nice cigar. Get your thoughts on it here a little bit, but this is something AJ did something back in 2017 after the little side note, after the omnibus budget bill in 2015 happened and you had to have your cigars out before a certain time. We at the store at Tinder Box at Easton, we actually had received like one box of different SKUs of different blends that he was trying to get out before a predicate date so that he could at least have that grace period. And I believe this was one of them. We didn't get this one in, but it was one of the ones that he was shipping out, like one box to a store, just so that it was shipped beforehand, which was a strategy that he had to get it out there before. Now, since then, if anyone following along with all that news, it had been delayed, and then from 2-year grace period to 5-year grace period, and then it went back to getting kind of looked at again. The FDA is getting involved, and now with the new administration in there, now we have the FDA looking at menthol products and also flavored cigars. So chances are we might see a resurgence of that I guess legislation as far as that goes. But this is one that he did actually try to take advantage of getting it out there beforehand, and then now here we are with the final product. But what do you think of this?
So with the texture of the wrapper and then kind of the flavor that I get, it reminds me of a BS Gold, but a hair stronger.
Okay.
Like I put the BS Gold at a medium body. I think this one's just a notch stronger. On the retrohale, the spice that's there with this cigar actually lingers quite a bit.
In the retrohale?
In the retrohale.
Yeah.
But it's not an overwhelming spice, but it just happens to stay there a little bit longer than what I'm used to with most cigars that I retrohale. But I mean, it's got a good flavor on the palate. You do pick up some spice on the palate, just a little bit of bite to it, I think, on the palate.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with the BS Gold comparison. I mean, it's Nicaraguan tobacco, but I wouldn't put it in the same ballpark. For those that know the BS Gold, I get more of a drier finish for sure on this.
Yeah.
I get a little bit of that pepper on the retrohale.
Maybe that dryness that you're getting is what I was classifying as that bite.
Yeah, could be. But yeah, you got a little bit of a punch in the retrohale. It's terrible when I say something like this because I feel like it comes across as I don't like it, but it's almost like I like the cigar, first of all, I'll say that, but it's got that kind of like that coffee that you left on the burner too long.
McDonald's coffee.
Maybe. I mean, unless they're just blowing through it. I mean, it depends what time you get there. But I mean, like that office pot, if anyone's worked in the office before, and like there's a little bit left over, like maybe like a quarter of a pot. And they brewed it when everyone got there. This was like the third pot in the morning, right, on the coffee machine. And then it kind of sat there, and like about 11 a.m., right? You're like, before I head into the lunch, I want a little bit of coffee. And no one turned off the burner. And you're like, well, I don't have time.
It's that 3 p.m.
I don't have time to make a new pot, and I really want coffee, so I'm just gonna like try it. That's what I'm getting.
Okay.
So
I understand. I actually
that clearly enough.
You painted it very well. I understand.
And then you spill some because you don't really like it. You like spill it on your pants, and then you have to like, Sean, you know that. Bob Ross.
Yeah, Steve Bob Ross.
Daniel's like, if you think that's bad, try Navy coffee.
So you probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I've never been with a bunch of sailors like you, but
Wow.
Jonathan Herring, who was on last week, he says, I love office pot. I think he tuned in at a different part of that description. Sean, what do you got?
I agree with I've been retrohaling it too, and I definitely get that coffee. And there is a spice, but not bad at all on the retrohale. It's not like overwhelming. And
yeah.
Like kind of earthy and a little bit of almond tone too with it. And and definitely and I don't know if you heard me earlier, but Steve Bob Ross the shit out of that description for the painter, for all you painters out there. But yeah, it was I like it really well. I like the retro, and I agree with Nate. It sits there for a little longer than normal, and I like that because I really enjoy the flavor and the taste of a retrohale. It's nice that it lingers.
And I don't think it's like a lot of times when we talk about spice in a retrohale, it tends to be like black pepper type of spice.
Yeah, I think not that.
This is a little bit softer, more like a white pepper. It's just it's a softer type of spice, but it's still spice.
Still spice.
I lost my sentence structure there.
Yeah, where'd you go there, man? Take us with you on that journey that just happened inside your head.
No, you don't want to go on that journey.
Makes me even more nervous.
So you said
white pepper.
This blend though, this was a predicate blend that he tried to rush out, but
it wasn't necessarily a predicate blend before 2007, but he tried to get it out there, to my knowledge, along with a handful of other ones that he did before that. So that was the strategy, is that if you had it out on the market before a certain date, and I mean, we're way past this, and it's not like the government listens to us, so it doesn't really matter. Listen to everything. But it was one that they basically just sent out to different parts of the country. And so just to get a SKU, or basically an item on the invoices.
Okay.
So that it had been shipped, the actual product had actually hit the market before a certain date, but it wasn't a mass release or anything like that.
So do we know when this actually became a regular production product?
I believe it was last year.
Oh, okay.
This is fairly recent.
Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that. Introduced at the 2019 IPCPR. So
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah. 2 trade shows ago. But yeah. And, in the press release, he said, quote, "I want everyone to enjoy it like the glory days of old Cuba." So yeah, it's an interesting blend, but he says, and I don't know if it's marketing, if it's the truth, it's just something that someone says, but he's been aging some of the tobaccos at the 4 oldest farms that he has. So that's pretty cool.
I think it's in line with a lot of the stuff that we get from AJ, though. Anywhere from medium to full body and a healthy amount of spice. Like typically when I think of an AJ cigar, that's what I think. I don't think of a mild blend.
No,
typically when I think of AJ.
Not typically.
And with him being in Esteli, I figure that cigar is going to have some spice. I think the spice is a little bit more prevalent on the retrohale than on the palate on this one.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think the one thing I've mentioned this in recent episodes, I think, is that AJ is pumping out so much stuff for other companies as well. That, when you hear a Nicaraguan blend for AJ, I feel like you're going to not necessarily have the same product, but there's a lot of similarities.
Yep.
I'm interested to smoke the H. Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez after this, but I've been on a kick recently. This cigar, I really have enjoyed AJ's, and we'll have to feature it soon. The Viva la Vida. That's a more recent release from him as well. And also the Ramon Ayones that he put out a few years back.
Love that cigar.
So that's another one I've smoked twice in the last probably 2 weeks, just because I really have been enjoying it. Because when he's putting his name on it, it's coming out of his portfolio. I don't want to say that he's trying to hit a mass audience necessarily when he's doing things for like Altadis or General or other companies. But when he does it out of his portfolio, I feel like he puts a little bit more creativity possibly behind it. And not saying the other ones aren't, but I just think that with these, I think this is something that doesn't just taste like anything else, right? Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm at with it.
Like he may take a blend for one company that he's doing, and this other company wants him to make a cigar, so he just takes that other blend and maybe changes a leaf or two or something in the
tweaks
blend.
It a little bit, right? Tweaks it a little bit.
Because I know we've talked about it before in the shop that there's so many cigars that we have. Because for a while there, the shop had trouble getting cigars by AJ. At least the cigars with his, from his brand. We had a lot of cigars that were made by AJ for other people. But we were sitting there looking at some of these going, man, those cigars are similar. I know they're not the same, but man, there's a lot of similarities.
There's some similarities, right? And so I agree.
But I do agree with you that this, when we look at some of the other cigars that AJ's doing for other companies that are at the Tinderbox, compared to this one does stand out from them.
Yeah. So Mike out there in the audience put up there, I compare the spice in AJ's cigars to the spice in good, hot, and, quote, spicy food. It's about good flavor, but not overpowering. Like when wings are all heat and no flavor. Yeah. I think it's a good comparison. You know what I mean? That's part of the blending process. You want to give it that strength. You want to give it some spice, but you can't overwhelm the flavor.
Jonathan Herring says, I would say the stuff he's done for Forge is pretty unique.
Yes. See, we say things. We're not trying to offend anyone, and we're not trying to water it down. I'm just saying there have been ones that I've smoked that it's like, oh, this is made by AJ Fernandez. It's a Nicaraguan puro. It's it's medium bodied. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get an AJ medium blend from Nicaragua. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yes, Forge, you guys have great cigars. Thank you for being on the show last week for sure. Also Justin from Diesel, you guys check that out for sure. He says, I'm just saying we try to do very different stuff with him. Agreed.
As you should.
So again, just full disclosure, don't shy away from it. Just try them and make up your own mind, in my opinion.
Yeah.
With any of the stuff with AJ. What I'll say is AJ Fernandez has clearly made in my opinion, his name known kind of as Don Pepin had done prior to him. Mm-hmm. That anything with the My Father brand on it, it's like you could do no wrong. In my opinion, now AJ's kind of taken that step even almost further as far as the scope that he's doing with all of his farms, all of his creativity, all of his ability to pump out cigars.
Yeah.
But you like this?
I do like it. It is very enjoyable. I think this is the second one I've smoked. I know when we first got them in, I smoked one.
Yeah.
You gotta smoke one to sell one, really. So I think all the AJ stuff that Tinderbox brought in recently, I've smoked.
Yeah.
And yeah, they are all very different.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you about that Viva La Vida. Like that's good smoke to feature coming up.
Yeah, we can do that. Have we done the Ramon Iones?
I would have to check my spreadsheet.
Gotcha. This one comes in at a very competitive price point for sure.
Yeah.
Again, this Robusto is going to be $10 to $11 depending on where you're at. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, that in Ohio we've got it right at that $10.95 on our shelf. Mm-hmm. So you might see it for a little bit more depending on where you're at, or you might see it at that $10 range. So, but again, that's about average anymore, I think, for a cigar of this caliber with that wrapper leaf. I mean, even like looking at yours from like just a foot away, there is a sheen off the light. It's just a really pretty wrapper leaf.
Yeah. And I love just that texture when you're holding the cigar. Like I said, it's got that velvety texture to it.
Good construction, good draw, solid ash as well. But I definitely would say it's worth a try. And I think with that, as we're going through this, do you have anything more to say about the whiskey or the cigar?
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah. We didn't really cover the marketing on the whiskey, just real quick. It's got kind of a vintage looking label on it.
Well, if you notice the logo in the top left,
waterfall.
They named this after Yellowstone National Park.
Right. Yeah, it says 7th generation family distillers, and then it's got kind of on the bottle raised in the glass Yellowstone since 1872 whiskey, and it is 93 proof. So Lebanon, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Now we get to the part one where we're going to do the rating. So whiskey, cigar, and the pairing. And were you clearing your throat? You want to say something there, Sean?
Well, since you drank the whiskey and smoked the cigar.
You didn't have to clear your throat, though. I mean, I would have gotten to you.
I'm just clearing my throat.
Sean, go ahead. We're all ears. We're all...
You overanalyze that a little bit, but that's okay. I didn't do that. It was very subtle.
You're all right.
Ass. So cigar, I'm going to give it a 9. I think that's a fantastic cigar. It's probably something I'll definitely buy again, especially for the price point. I mean, that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
It's really good. So glad you guys got this one for tonight. Actually, the bourbon, I'll probably, or the whiskey, sorry, give it a probably an 8.5.
Okay.
And then I'd say the overall pairing, though, together, I'll give it a 9.
Nice.
Yeah, they're really good together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yep.
Solid. Nate, how about you?
The whiskey, I'm going to be at 7.5.
Ooh.
What anyone who knows me, 7.5 is not a bad bottle. I mean, for a $40 bottle, you know, I think I was expecting a little bit more out of a $40 bottle, especially with it coming from the Beam Brothers. Because I mean, I've had 3 different whiskeys from them. I think the spice on this one is just a little bit overpowering. That rye spice that's in it. Don't get a whole lot of sweetness, which is what I would have expected from this if this is a 75% corn mash bill. Still very enjoyable. Still a good sipper. I know on their website they even have a couple cocktail recipes that they list.
Yeah, I think it'd be good in a couple cocktails.
Yeah, it's a solid bottle. It's got a lot of flavor to it. Just a little spicier than what I was expecting. On the cigar, I'm going to be an 8 on the cigar. I do enjoy the cigar. I think the flavor on the cigar is a little subtle. The flavor in the retrohale is very prominent, but I think the flavor on the palate's a little bit more delicate, a little bit more subtle. There's no like one flavor that really just jumps out other than a little bit of spice on the palate. Like Sean said, almond, like I don't really, because with almond, I think kind of like a sweet nuttiness to it, and I don't really get that from this one. I get a little bit more spice. But as far as the pairing, I actually give the pairing an 8.5. And what's interesting that I noted, because I was doing whiskey, then the cigar, and then the whiskey. If I smoke the cigar and then take a drink of the whiskey, I get more sweetness out of the whiskey. If I take a sip of the whiskey and then smoke the cigar smoke actually brings out more spice from the whiskey. So it actually just intensifies it, kind of like last week. It just brings that spice back a little bit. And a little bit more subtle than just drinking the whiskey straight, but it definitely brings it back. Like the spice had gone away, then I took a puff on the cigar and it brought the spice back. But I think that's a lot to do with, you know, the Nicaraguan tobacco, and AJ stuff typically does have that spiciness. So in a sense, doing it in that order, the whiskey actually brings out more of the spice on the cigar. But then in the reverse order, the cigar brings out more sweetness out of the whiskey. So if I were pairing these two together, I would always go cigar then whiskey for me.
Smoke the cigar and then take a sip.
Yeah, because then I get more sweetness out of this and a little bit less spice.
But when you go back to the cigar, you did the whiskey first.
You just can't wrap your head around that, can you?
How do you...
I give it a minute. Like I do the cigar, then the whiskey.
Cannonball coming.
Then I give it I'm not sitting there hot boxing and shooting the whiskey. Like Jesus.
Just 1, 2, 1.
Like do a 30 Mississippi count? No.
Just trying to keep up.
Good luck.
The whiskey, I'm going to give it a solid 8. I think this is a great bottle, especially at that $40 price point. I think it's good flavor. It is different. You're saying you were expecting something different. I would agree with that, but I also think there's no problem with that. I am surprised that, you know, you said how much percent was rye?
13.
13.
It tastes a little bit more like a high rye, though.
It does.
Like
yeah.
a 20,
That's kind of where I was going with it, yeah. And it was interesting, like when we first started talking about it, and it's weird. I think that even just now, I did go cigar whiskey. I got more sweetness. on that sip.
Yeah. Just
Yeah. So maybe that kind of that a little bit of that dry or like that slight bitterness of the cigar, as far as the finish, that might actually reset it a little bit for me. But I'd say 8 on the bottle. Definitely recommend it. I think this is something. It's a solid buy for $40 compared to what else is on the market for that price. I like the story. I mean, obviously they know what they're doing. I would think 7 generations in.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple.
Maybe.
Tricks of the trade have been passed down.
Well, I think anyone that knows us knows if we rate anything, whether a cigar or whiskey, a 7 or higher, that means go out and buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like when we had that one cigar from Indiana, what was that? Cedar Creek.
Yeah.
Like I think we both gave that San Andreas like a 9.
Yeah.
And Avi's like, all right, if these guys are giving it a 9, that means go out and buy boxes.
Right. Yeah. So that's going to bring me to my cigar rating, which I'd give this cigar also not as solid because I'm kind of on the fence, but I'd say probably an 8.5.
Okay.
Somewhere, it's like an 8 to 9, but 8.5 just for simplicity there. The construction's great. Obviously, the look of the cigar, the wrapper leaf is beautiful. The flavor I've already described. It's something that I would say I would get, pick up a couple, maybe up to 5. Hi, Tony. Tony's out in the garage, as you can see. Hi, Tony. You can get the spotlight later, buddy. Down. Come on, down. All right. Yeah, we do it in the garage with my dog in the garage now. Guest appearance by Tony. The 8.5. I'd say maybe like you pick up 1 to 5. If you're going to be buying this box, if you really love it. But I mean, for sure, I like to your point. Yeah, if we do a 9 or 10, that's a box, and this is definitely something that I'd do like a cigar to 5 of them or something like that. But great, and the pairing I'd give 9. Kind of like I think Sean, you said 9, right? What was your pairing?
8.5.
8.5. So we're kind of in that. I think it really does go well together. I mean, I think you have a classic, even though you got a little bit of spice, you got a classic bourbon, you got a classic cigar flavor profile. It's just really good. So yeah, I'm gonna. Tony, you want to get? I posted a picture on my Instagram that Tony's got a lot to say. He was sitting in Nate's chair as soon as Nate got up earlier.
Yeah, I went inside to grab glasses. I come outside,
sitting there.
Tony's in the chair. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah. So, well, that being said, guys, check these out for sure from your local brick and mortar. If you don't have a brick and mortar near you, just check it out, possibly online as well for the cigars. And then with the whiskey, hopefully you can pick it up in your local liquor store. And definitely, I think these are very highly rated, at least from the group here. So check those out. And with that, thank you guys very much. Patreon.com/BourbonBS podcast for part 1. You guys are great. We're going to do a drawing here for the Warhawk bottle opener and the Espiritu domino set as well. So those are going to be prizes. We're going to draw that between part 1 and part 2 here live on the air. So that also leads us to the sponsors. Tinder Box at Easton for the Días de Gloria from AJ Fernandez that we reviewed. Also the Yellowstone Bourbon. Check that out as well. And then Altadis USA, we got the Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez as well. We're going to keep the AJ train going. And also BS Cigar Company. Thank you very much. BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available, and they are fantastic. So check them out as well. And guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Stay tuned for, reprioritizing is the topic. We're going to be joined by Sean Wilkinson because I know he's had a lot of that going on in the more recent years as well. So looking forward to hearing from him and you guys as well. Share, like, review. Guys, cheers.
Cheers. You gotta hold it from the base in order to get that
base. All right, buddy.
All about that base.
All about that base.
All right, so who should we have pick a number tonight? Not Ian.
We got on there. Yeah, not Ian, not Jonathan. Most obvious, if you're still listening, we're going to give you a shot to pick a number here.
Was it 1 to 23?
Yeah, 1 to 23 here. So let me pull them up.
Avi, 1 to 23. Sorry, Ray. You've already picked once.
Ooh, me. Avi, if you're still out there, pick one from 23.
22.
22. So that would be easy to do. Jody Jacks.
Hey,
Jody Jacks, you got a
she's local.
Henry Clay Warhawk bottle opener. And also a Espiritu Trinidad domino set. She has been with us, let's see, $5 a month tier since November of 2019.
Wow. So year
Jody,
and a half.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much for the support and congratulations. And I'll have to message you and see if I can hook up with you here locally and maybe at the shop.
I think she's also donated a bottle to the podcast before.
Yeah, she has the TX.
No, did she donate that one or did she recommend and?
No, she donated.
She donated that
TX.
one. Okay,
yeah, she donated TX.
Yeah.
Hey Shane, you want to take Tony for a quick walk down the street? See, this is what happens when you mess with the chewing. He wants more.
I wasn't encouraging it.
See?
Avi says, Jody Jacks, it's a date.
There you go. There you go. All right. You're going to go with Uncle Shannon here, buddy. Let's set this up. You want to scoot down a little bit here? Don't break Grandma's chair now.
Trying not to.
Young Crane's be falling over in grave. That chair there. Back this up. Stay tuned, everyone.
Oh, there you go.
Sean, can you get the mic cable? And so the mic is on top of the boxes there, and the cable should be in the box. And once again, my wife is texting me complaining that she can't see the bottle because of the banner.
Sorry, we have sponsors.
We got to put those sponsors up there, honey.
Watch the whole show.
The banner covers up like most of the bottle. On StreamYard. Yeah. Well, wait till you plug it in, otherwise it's going to blow it out real quick. Yeah. And then, hey, you got a coaster.
Watch your glass.
That's Sean's.
Watch Sean's glass. You got room?
Sure. Sneak in real quick.
That's a handsome screen right there.
Yes, it is.
Oh my goodness.
And here I come to ruin it.
Cameraman, if you could just pan over. Avi noticed.
Oh, Avi, you are the first person on the live broadcast to notice that, yes, sometime between last week's episode and today, I got rid of the 14-month beard that I had going on. Although before the podcast, I actually said, I wonder who's going to be the first person to notice. And Sean is sitting back in the garage and he goes, holy shit. like he'd been sitting here for 20 minutes.
I was looking into his eyes. Sorry, I didn't
Sweet.
see his beard.
Thank God his mic was still muted for that.
They could hear him. Yeah, go ahead and share it. Which is a good point. Anyone out there listening, this is the time to share. We're getting into part 2 here.
Can you just share it? Like, do you have to tag people or?
So
right,
if
write
you
post, okay.
write post means you post it onto your page.
Yeah, okay.
No,
Yeah,
I don't think you haven't shared it yet, right?
No.
Thanks.
Well, I'm worried that if people log in and realize I'm about cigars, I'm not on. They're gonna be like, fuck it. Shut up.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Ian. No, Ray, I know when I did it, obviously. I was there when it happened. And I was sober. No, I had that beard twice as long as I did the first time I grew a beard. So. I got sued by Duck Dynasty. No, it was ZZ Top. Billy Gibbons was like, "Yeah, you gotta get rid of that, dude." Although I joked around with someone, like, "Hey, if Gillette wants to give me $1 million to get rid of it, I'll do it." Billy Gibbons said no. I'll do it.
I get that idea.
All right. Oh. We ready?
Yeah. Get my arms ready. Grab that. Okay.
You got
Just don't forget to lean into the mic.
I know. There we go.
Right. Let's do this. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 170, part 2. In the first part, I want to thank our sponsor, Tinder Box at Easton, for the Días de Gloria from AJ Fernandez. We reviewed that in part 1, along with the Yellowstone that we were drinking, the Yellowstone Bourbon. And thank you, Nate, for bringing that bottle. That's very nice of you to bring that to the podcast.
You're welcome.
Listen to part 1. If you guys are on the audio only, just click 170.1 if you are ahead of it. And if you guys are just tuning in from sharing it or whatever it is, check out kind of the beginning of the podcast. First, what was it, about 40 minutes this time?
Yeah.
I believe. And so, yeah, check that out. Also, Altadis USA, thank you very much for the sponsorship. We have the Upman by Nicaragua. Or Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez. Jeez. And yeah, again, been that kind of week. And then also BS Cigar Company Gold and Silver is available. Check those out. All Nicaraguan tobacco tonight.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? So fantastic. Check that out. And also patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. In the intermission, if you guys are just tuning in or if you're listening to the audio and you didn't hear that, we have been doing, thanks to our sponsor, Altadis USA, we've been doing some raffles and prize giveaways to our Patreon members. And so tonight, Jody Jacks was the winner.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going to actually
We have
tag her
3
in
more
here.
prizes to do.
We have 3 more, so we'll get more. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
As of right now, we got another Domino set and bottle opener. We got 1 more flask. And then at the start of it, we had 3 sets of whiskey glasses. We got 1 more left.
Okay. I got some home defense insect killer we could probably give away, an old bowling ball.
Did Altadis provide that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Maybe send him the bill for it. Let me see what else I got on my shelves here.
Oh, that hat, dude.
The Cigar Superfan 80s hat. It's
You should
fantastic.
auction that off.
We'll do that when the new season of Stranger Things comes out, because I feel like that belongs on Stranger Things. for
Ian noticed
sure.
that we haven't raffled off any t-shirts.
I know. Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
You're a saint.
Thanks for sticking with us, Ian.
Yeah.
As soon as we find another printer.
I think I got one. So I also want to mention towards the end of June, we're trying to finalize the trip, but there might be a special podcast going live at least on the last weekend, Sunday or Monday of June.
Yeah.
Nate and I are trying to finalize trip plans down to Louisville.
Yeah.
And hopefully be joined by Bourbon and Blondes, who actually have been on the podcast a handful of times as well. So
I also know a really good whiskey and cigar bar just outside of Louisville that maybe we can visit while we're down there.
I mean, sure. Well, while we're there, when in Rome.
That's all right.
Tonight, we're going to be talking about, on part 2, we're going to be talking about reprioritizing. This is something that on one of my more recent old man walks, I was thinking about the fact that, so this week, for example, this is something that I'll kind of throw out there, is that I was covering some extra shifts, doing some open to closes at the shop. And along with that, so in recent months, I also adopted Tony, my dog. Mm-hmm. And then this week, with that extra time away from the house and having the dog, I have a great support system that helps out to take care of Tony when I'm not here. So I appreciate, my neighbors, my family, and everything like that. It's always nice. It is something that you need sometimes when you're on your own, or if you have significant others and everyone's just kind of going different ways. You need that support system all the time, whether it be for something like that. But I also, for the first time, and I can't tell you when, I am in midweek, and I'm itching, but I'm in midweek of, because I was trying to spend more time with Tony. I am skipping the gym for an entire week because I looked at it as a way to spend more time with the dogs, more time at home than I was possibly if I had another hour out of the house 5 days in a row. So I'm also looking for that, trying to get a little bit more sleep this week, trying to kind of get through some plateaus I've had in my fitness and health. So sleep is really important, that I realized that I wasn't putting as a priority. So sometimes I'd go late doing a podcast, I'd go late talking to someone on the phone, whatever it might be, stay up late with Tony just to kind of like burn some more energy. And so it's something that where I looked at as I need sleep. I need more sleep. Everyone, I feel like, puts that last a lot of times, is that they strive off of caffeine and then no sleep and more caffeine, and then you throw alcohol in there, whatever it might be. And I think that that's something that you go long enough that you kind of lose yourself a little bit. And I got to be honest that, it's Wednesday and I've been doing this basically since, I think, Saturday. I didn't go to the gym. So not even a full week. And I feel already a little bit recentered, refocused, and I'm excited to get back in the gym on Sunday, but I feel a little looser physically. I also feel a little bit more clarity in my mind. So that's kind of what brought it up. And that's where, going into the topic portion of tonight, this is something that I thought that would be relevant to talk about, because when things seem to be piling up against you, or you seem to possibly not be sure why you feel off, or you feel like you're maybe in a little bit of a rut, or something is failing, one aspect of your life, whether it be family life or your job isn't going well and you're trying to figure this out, whatever it might be, your fitness, your health, your diet, all these things, it's not sinking like it once was. This is where I think that reprioritizing what's important or what is needed is something that I think that we all could get better at. And a lot of that, I think, is something that there is a lot of self-assessment when it comes to that. And I think that that's something that you get caught up. We've talked about even doing this podcast, that it hasn't been as much recently, but I mean, Nate, and Sean, you're around for this a lot, and all you guys out there, is that I've mentioned before, is that it's just sometimes it becomes more of a job. Like, we have to do it. And then you lose the fun that was once part of it. You lose the interest, and it's just, you have to somehow bounce back.
Sometimes you forget why you started doing this in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of a reboot. And
Ray, it's funny, I'm full disclosure about all this stuff. He says, I'm sure lowering those testosterone levels have helped, made room for something else. I've actually, because I'm waiting to go to my doctor tomorrow. This is the first time in probably 10 years that I haven't had any, I'm on TRT, so I'm on hormone replacement therapy, because this is something that we've talked about on the show before. And realistically, that's kind of maybe been a blessing in disguise, but I know my energy level has been way off as well. So it's about all of that stuff. Now I got Tony back. So go ahead, guys. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah. So it's good to kind of like do a reboot in your life. My wife and I just celebrated our 20th anniversary last week, and
congratulations.
Thank you. And appreciate that. But for all you married folks out there and been married for a while, you can get in a rut very quickly. And we did have quite a bit of a rut over this past year, especially obviously for many reasons. But last week, for the first time, and I couldn't tell you how long, we went out on a date for like a day date and an evening date, and made a whole day out of it. And it's like refreshed our relationship.
Nice.
And it's so easy to fall into that and just dig a deeper hole. And once you get out of that and realize, just, hey, make a plan, go out and let's just shoot for Friday. We're going to go to, something like that. It just brings everything back. You just start appreciating everything else again. And it's not just that, like we did stuff with our house and some other things, but especially with COVID and the way it's been, I think a lot of people, if not most, have been in a rut for over a year now. And I think the country itself is kind of reprioritizing now that we're able to get back out and enjoy ourselves. So I think I love this topic. It's perfect. So
Good. Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome.
yeah, thank you.
And that's a never-ending thing, right? As
Yeah.
far as you've been married for how long?
20 years.
20 years. And so, I mean, you think about that this is not the first rut you've been in. You haven't told me that. I just assumed.
Oh, yeah.
Well, isn't it the running joke, like the 7-year itch or 7-year bitch or whatever they call that?
Itch.
My
Itch.
wife may be watching that. I can say that. So.
I didn't call her.
You
that.
can't say
No.
that.
Hey, sometimes you can be the. Never mind.
Yeah, I am. I'll admit it.
So, Nate, what about you?
Well, I think, one of the things that we've talked a lot about on the podcast before is the sense of balance. And leading up to the podcast, I was having a conversation with my wife about the topic. And like, there are some times that something may come up that you have to throw yourself out of balance. Like, we want to try and do everything and have the same routine.
Yeah.
But sometimes something comes up where you have to prioritize that and focus time and energy on that. And that may cause a sacrifice in some other area. But so, like, you were talking about, Steve, like, you haven't gone to the gym, but you've been spending more time at home, more time with the dog, more time getting sleep.
Yeah.
So, for you, getting some more sleep is something that was important because you were trying to do so many things that one area actually got out of balance. Like, you may have thought everything was balanced because you were sleeping, but you needed more. So you had to sacrifice that from somewhere else.
Right.
So, I mean, there comes a time where, and like with work, let's say for a job, for example, everything may be going just fine with your job. And then all of a sudden there's a project that comes up and you get assigned to that project. Well, you got to put some other stuff on hold in order to be able to prioritize and get that product out in the timely manner. So other stuff may, have to take a little bit of a back seat in order for you to focus on something else. But then once you get caught up in that and you complete that, then you can go back to focusing on the other things and balancing out the rest. So, like, once you get caught up on your sleep, or once you get caught up on spending time with your loved ones, not that you should neglect that ever,
But it happens.
It does happen.
Happens.
It
a lot.
does. So like sometimes, we balance all the other aspects of our life. The neighbors are having a party. It's like a cheer
maybe,
squad
yeah.
out in
It was the last day of school. I think that's probably the
Oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing a cake stand over there.
Oh.
For
but no, I mean,
Maybe Kylie and Ben, the parents, might be doing a cake stand to celebrate it. I don't know.
wait, that means they're going to be home more. I mean, the other night, it was actually last night at dinner. My wife was actually brought up one of my previous careers that I was doing when I was in the cigar industry full time.
Yeah.
She's like, I liked it when you were doing that because you always, when it came to the weekends, like you always took initiative and like, all right, here's what we're going to do. On Saturday, we're going to do this. Then we're going to go eat dinner. Then we're going to go, like, you actually laid out what we were going to do. And I was like, yeah, but you know what? When I was doing that, you weren't the main priority. I realized that later on. I didn't realize that at the time because, I'd be on the road visiting cigar shops Monday through Friday. And then Saturday, what did I want to do? I wanted to go hang out at a cigar shop while my wife walked around the mall.
So what?
And to me, it was because I was doing
the job. It was the fact that when you had the availability,
it's like I
you were
loved
like, hey, I just want to keep doing this.
Yeah, I loved hanging out in cigar shops. I loved talking to people. I loved meeting people. I loved being a resource for the staff at the shop.
Yeah.
So I was just hanging out in the back and it's like, hey, if anyone has any questions, feel free to shoot them my way. If they want to buy some of my product, I'll throw a free stick in. But I'm not actually like actively working or trying to sell product or anything. I just want to hang out in a cigar shop. And it wasn't until later on that I realized, like, you know what? maybe I should have put my wife a little bit higher priority during those days off.
So what did you do?
I lost that job.
I understand that.
And then I was spending a lot of time with my wife.
Well, listen, though, now you have one job and you have the second job, which is working in the cigar industry and the retail side of it. So
And-
what do you do, though, now is what I'm saying is knowing you, like, what do you do with your one full day off? Do you go to cigar shops?
Nope.
Typically?
Not
Exactly.
typically.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
So
you have
so Sunday is my day off.
That's my point. Yeah.
And most of my Sundays, we wake up, my wife makes breakfast, we hang out on the patio, listen to music, I'll smoke some cigars, drink some whiskey, and then I'll make steaks for Steak and Wine Sunday, and we just spend the whole day hanging out. Now there are some times where on Sunday, like she wants to go say up to Delaware and hang out up there. She may want to go someplace and do something that we haven't done in a while, but we do it together. Like I try
That's
not
good.
to fill my Sunday with something else.
So
because and over the course of the last year, working from home so much, initially we were both working in the living room, and then that just became too uncomfortable sitting in a recliner while trying to have my laptop on a coffee table. Like I wasn't working out too well. Not having my work set up the way I have it in my office. I didn't feel as though I was as efficient as I was. So eventually I had to make like, hey, you can work off your laptop in the living room. I got to have my office set up. So I got to go in my office, so we spend our working days in opposite rooms, but then the nights that I'm not at the shop or I'm not here for the podcast, like that's when we'll do stuff together or we actually sit. For some people, it may be something trivial. For my wife, it's something very important. Actually sitting down at a dining room table to have dinner.
It's important.
Instead of sitting on the couch or sitting in a recliner and eating dinner in front of a TV, sitting at the dining room table with just some background music.
Yeah.
And having dinner face to face and having communication.
Do you put your phone away?
She'll make me.
Yeah, good.
Now,
That's
for
good.
Steak and Wine Sunday, I will take the picture and I will post it on Facebook because there are some people like, hey, where's Steak and Wine? Like, all right, here it is. Here's my Steak and Wine. But if I'm just sitting there like scrolling through Facebook, she's like, hey, put the phone away. Like, got it.
So I think there's something to be said also, like once you realize it, and you may not have realized it until obviously after the fact, after you weren't in that position anymore, that's what you were doing. And that's what I like. That's why I was kind of driving that point home, that I knew that was what you had done since then. You realize the amount of time that you have for yourself, for your work and everything else, doing your job on the road and everything like that. That's a job. And that's a struggle for a lot of people. We talked about that last week with Jonathan and Justin.
Yeah.
So you lower that a little bit. We got kids that are excited about the last day of school.
Full on riot in the court right now.
Our listeners can't hear it, but it's a little bit distracting.
It's all
for
right.
us.
It's all right. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him. Gonna have a rager tonight. You know
it is.
No, it's good.
That's good right there.
Right there. You got to vent the smoke out. There's 5 of us in here smoking.
You got a little
cigars.
latch right there that you can push, and there you go. Thanks, Daniel. But yeah, so here's what I've noticed also. So I'll give a little bit of my background, and those listening to this before may know me a bit, but I've had a little bit of that as well. Especially after this last year. So I was in a relationship going into 2020, and I will say this, that I find myself looking at some of the bigger social things in this country about reprioritizing. We got a lot of that this last year. I realized in my personal life that I think a little bit, and this can spark maybe some big conversation, or you guys will just all tune out. But one of the biggest things that I worry about when you're reprioritizing is overcorrecting. And so there's a couple things like this, and bear with me on this, is that I don't necessarily think that everything that we're doing as a country and as a world is overcorrecting, but we definitely we
the pendulum swings too far each direction.
Well, yeah, you just basically try to say, hey, everything that happened in the past, everything that's important right now, that's all that's important. So the things that I've been neglecting in my personal life, us as a world, a country, and society, we now just make that the focal point, and then you lose sight of that balance you're talking about. I know, looking back, one of the things that I've tried to work on more recently, since I've been out of that relationship, is that when I look back at my 2020, it was a prime example that when all I was trying to do is, focus on staying employed, keeping the business I'm involved with going during that time, that it was a level of, as I reflect now, there's a self-reflection there that I maybe took for granted certain things that I can really focus and go after, prioritize this part of it for now. And when that's corrected, I can come back and everything will be the same. I think you see that in the bigger picture as well. I think this is something that we've seen coming now in 2021. Again, I'm taking this out of circle, right? And we can come back to the personal thing. We talk about fitness and everything else. But I've noticed that you watch the news now, and a lot of people I've talked to don't even watch the news anymore because they're so burnt out on it. Doesn't matter what your viewpoint is, what your 2020 was like, but they just completely just don't even watch the news anymore because it's too much for them. But when you actually consistently watch this from different news sources, there is now this full circle coming back. I was watching the nightly news tonight locally, and we have basically, it's been a year since the original protests that were happening in Columbus and other areas of the country. You still have people now. There were arrests in Portland again, last night, because the protests that were in almost remembrance in a sense of a year ago. Then it gets late at night, and then you have the same kind of rioters that are involved in that, and you're like, it's like, so this shit's still going on, but now you have the other side of it, that all of these things about, like, in Columbus and other areas, like police reform and stuff like that, and you cannot go more than, I don't know, a few hours, at least in Columbus, and I'm sure other cities are much the same, but you see it, like we had a shooting in California, and we have, stuff going on. There's shootings all the time, and there's the police officers leaving in droves at this point. There's these programs where basically they can leave early, and that this is what's happening. That's some of the overcorrecting things that I see going on right now, is that we're seeing full circle, is that now we have the back end of that. When you focus, you reprioritize, and you really push it towards this one facet of it, and you neglect maybe some of the other sides of it. If only we would have handled it a certain way. I see that happening also in personal lives as well, is that you really focus. Like, I really have to put my nose to the grindstone, whether it be, I'm neglecting my family. So now I'm just going to focus on my family and say, screw it to the job. I'm going to put you second. And then all of a sudden you lose your job.
Yeah.
Right. Or vice versa. You focus on your work and you neglect your family or other aspects of your life, your fitness, your health. Like, I'll just eat what I can because I really have to focus on this. Now all of a sudden you have health problems. Now all of a sudden you have marital problems. Now all of a sudden you have these other issues coming up, that I think that this is something that, when you're reprioritizing, I love the fact that you said balance, Nate, because this is something that you may have to, for a short period of time, put more focus on one priority just to correct it. But just watch that line of overcorrecting. If that's all you're concerned about is that problem, or just problems in general, all the good things you had going into that scenario might become the problems after the fact. I don't know if you guys agree, disagree with that.
Yeah, I do. I think a lot of it has to do too with the media. They drive a lot of this stuff. They just keep throwing it in your face, whatever it may be, and then it brings everybody kind of, like you said, focused in on that, when there's a lot more in the world that, and in the country, that needs to be reprioritized, in just other facets of what's going on in the country. It's not just that, but they always talk about the same thing over and over and over again. There's so much more out there that needs to be focused on.
Right.
And which I think, if they did that, would maybe encourage people to do some reprioritizing of their own, that they could see, like, if they brought more things to the table, you go, oh yeah, I never thought of it that way. Or I didn't realize that, so yeah, it's just like a skipping record over and over and over again. And I'm hoping with people getting out now and being able to walk around and be in public and hug people again or whatever, they maybe don't watch the news as much and, you know, focus on what it was like before all this shit happened. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. There are people still now just getting out, and I really don't want to get down the rabbit hole, but the magical switch was flipped that now all of a sudden everything's open again. You know, with the in our country, and not necessarily across the world, but our country, as CDC comes out and says that, you know, hey, now if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. If you're not fully vaccinated, you should still wear a mask, but you don't have to. And it's like, well, if you actually read the thing, it's like, what was the reasoning behind that? No,
Nothing.
you don't need that.
Yeah.
No, magical switch has been flipped.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be herd immunity, and we weren't there yet.
No.
And
It's summer in the U.S., so I don't know. There's just something. So I do want to throw up some comments though, and we've got Ray Cheshire out there. It's funny because, you know, he lived in America for a while from the UK, and now he's in Hong Kong. He's in Vietnam right now. And, you know, he's saying that, you know, there's been very little progress in America in recent history. It's funny because it's in a lot of parts of the world, the culture, I think there is a consistent, you know, the linear history, it's linear, but there is that cyclical part, you know what I mean? It's always coming back in cycles. But I do want to throw up, Jonathan Herring had a comment, and there are comments going crazy.
Yeah.
To your point, Sean, I don't understand the blame on the media. We literally have access to any kind of media you would like to watch. We have more access to information than we've ever had in this country. That point, go ahead. Go. No,
but
I want you to respond.
But I guess it also depends on where you're going. Like if you're on Facebook or whatever, or any, I don't know the algorithms, right? But all you get is certain media. And you're right, Jonathan. I think that there is some out there, but you have to make that effort to go out and find it. Whereas if you're sitting at home scrolling through Facebook, you're seeing the same things, or if you go and watch TV. So I think that's a great idea, but are people going out and doing it?
Well, and we had a concept brought up a few weeks back. I forget who said it. It might have been you, Sean, or Shannon. The echo chamber. Shannon. So it's like, yeah, that is part of it. The media is there, but it's that echo chamber. You find like-minded people and sources that happens. I'm sorry, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far, but I think this is part of it. I think even in personal issues, right? So when you have these personal issues, also, who's the shoulder you cry on about something, or who's the friends that you talk to about your relationship issues, you talk to about your fitness issues. You know, it's like, do you go to someone that you look up to or someone that you trust? So when you're trying to reprioritize, if you feel like you're either, let's go with that, you're out of shape, you're not eating well and all that stuff, who do you talk to? Do you talk to another person that's having the same struggles? Do you talk to someone that looks like they don't have those struggles, that they've always been, you know, healthy and fit and all this stuff? Or do you talk to someone that used to have those problems and now they've bounced back? I think a lot of the times misery loves company, and therefore when you have these things, you talk to those people. If you're talking to someone, I'm not saying you don't want to get a lot, and that's where there's a lot of parallels here. You can talk to several people. If you're having relationship issues, who do you talk to? You talk to a happily married person that seems happy, that has gone through issues, you've gone through these things, or do you talk to a single person that has had nothing but roadblocks and failures?
See, I've said that before.
That may have learned lessons. I'm not saying that, but like, who's your audience there?
Well, like in the last 6 months with what you've gone through in your personal life, Steve, I've told you before, you know, like, I'm here for you if you want to talk.
Yep.
But I feel like I'm a bad example because, you know, I've been married to one person for 11 years, and it's the only person I've ever been with.
Right.
Not dated, but ever been with and married to. The only person I've ever lived with.
Right.
And so, you know, because our relationship histories are so different and the way we are in relationships is so different. Like, I'm there for you when I was there for you when you needed a shoulder to cry on,
right,
or when you needed to talk to someone about what was going on.
Yeah.
I was just there to listen. I wasn't, and that was, remember back when we had the Bourbon and Blondes on, we talked about active listening.
Yeah,
Like I was
that
there.
a great episode.
I was there to listen to what you were going through, knowing full well that because my relationship was so different, there may not be a whole lot that I can contribute and actually give you advice and help you out with.
Right.
But I knew that's not what you wanted. That's not what you needed. You just needed someone to talk to.
I think a lot of people do. I think that happens in a lot of these areas of life. Careers the same way. We've had podcasts about that. That's, I think, with the reprioritizing as the subject, it's interesting to me that sometimes you look at these problems, and again, going after that whole misery loves company, the communication aspect of it is, if you're having issues at your job, you're not giving enough focus, or you're being told you're not giving enough focus to your job, who do you complain to? Who do you vent to? A lot of times anyone that listen, but friends.
Yeah.
And it's not based, and I'm not saying there's right or wrong answers here, but I mean, it's not based on the fact that they are successful in their career. They've been through these things. It's just the fact that you're talking to them. So that brings up a great example, is that when you're going through that, you're trying to reprioritize, you realize that there are chinks in the armor as far as your workload in life. Nate, you brought up a great point. Me talking to you, talking to someone else that may not have a similar background, haven't really been through those things in recent years, maybe growing up, but in real life circumstances. You talk about divorce. When I first started getting into the cigar community, this is something that I realized that you look back at it, and I still see it today, not as much as I used to, but there are people that get kind of grouped to something where like cigar community, right? You start going to a cigar shop, you're going, like I was going through marriage issues. And so that's when I started kind of getting like, oh, I need a hobby. I need to get out and I need to smoke cigars maybe. And I started like meeting people, and I've brought it up, and it's been not recently, but I started talking to people that were similar age, twice my age, all these things. Some people that had been through marital problems that they succeeded and pushed through, and they're great after that time. I talked to people that their marriage failed and they're still not happy. I talked to people that their marriage failed, unfortunately, and they're good friends, and they've gone on to do great things in their personal life. And that was something that I think that, again, the parallels to the media and things on the bigger scale is that I tried to widen the scope of who the audience was or where my input was coming from. And that's really where I kind of, you piece it all together, what works for you.
Yeah. I mean, in the cigar shop community, just like when Jonathan talked about, media and information and news, everything you have access to, like in the cigar shop community, when you're going through something in life, most cigar shops, I would say, you have access to a lot of information just because the difference of people that come in there, the different life experiences that you run into in a cigar shop,
right? You
can hear a lot of stuff. It's then up to you to filter out, what's needed, like what's important, what's minutia, the stuff that actually is important versus the bullshit. Like sometimes I think in the cigar community, that's the hard part, is filtering out all the bullshit.
It's not just cigar community. That's
no,
everything.
It's not.
Yeah, okay.
It's every community. But there's a lot barbershops and shit. And there's a lot of bullshit. But it's up to you to filter out, what's important.
Yeah.
Like what's the important things that you're hearing to you, and focus in on those,
right,
and imply that information and that knowledge.
Yeah. I do want to say, we got these, if you're listening to the audio only or whatever, but hopefully if you guys are watching on Facebook, especially, you're looking at the comments to Ray and Ian. I mean, I'm not going to really focus on you guys. Ray, your comment, there's not been a lot of progress in America. And someone brought up, civil rights in the 50s and 60s. There are people that are, alive in America that there was strong segregation.
Mm-hmm.
Voting rights were not a thing for people. There has been a lot of progress. But I tell you what, one lifetime isn't going to change it. So I don't know, and Ray, I love you to death. And anyone like Ian's saying, he's been in a lot of countries and everything like that. But if you look at actual history, there's been progress across the board. And I will say this, that, there has been a lot of progress, not perfect, and we're not even there yet, and we never will be completely. But there was a lot more prevalent discrimination and just even rights. and we've made a lot of progress in America, in the United States, that if you're of the age of 18, you have the right to vote.
Yeah.
Male, female, doesn't matter what race you are,
Mm-hmm.
you have the right to vote. Okay. So, I mean, like, you look at these issues, and I understand that, but I mean, like, you got to look at that is that, you know, again, reprioritizing things. I don't want to say we've taken a step back recently, but it's not fixed, but it's all about progress. And I think that's a really relevant, he says, recent history. Yeah.
So I'll give you a funny.
We might go down a rabbit hole.
I'll give you a funny, you know, it could be a funny
reprioritizing the podcast.
It could be a funny or tragic example, depending on how you look at it. When I was still working at Battelle, there was a manager at Battelle. It was his 25th anniversary of working at Battelle, and he was the manager of facilities and cage wash. So I was doing animal studies, and all of our equipment has to be cleaned either multiple times a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on what the equipment is. And he was over top of what we called cage wash. And someone had asked him what the biggest change he had seen in 25 years. And he had started working at Battelle, which is headquartered here in Columbus, Ohio, in 1985.
Okay.
And he said, and I'll never forget it, because when he said it, my jaw hit the floor. When he started at Battelle, he was in cage wash. Cage wash was segregated in 1985.
Yeah.
Whites worked on the clean side. Blacks worked on the dirty side.
What if you weren't white or black?
Dirty side. And I'm sitting there going, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a punch in the face. I
It
mean,
was 1985.
and again, we're
Ohio.
We're three white males on this podcast tonight, and I understand that it's a limited point of view, but I mean, this is something, again, we're kind of on point, and we're not as on point, because again, I think, you know, you could definitely shoot holes in a lot of our perspectives, but I think it's about the communication and talking about it. Yeah, I mean, it's a constant. That's why I like this topic of reprioritizing. This is a constant thing. This is something that you always are looking at. You're always doing an assessment of whatever the field is, how wide the scope is. Let's bring it back down to the personal level.
Mm-hmm.
Either you guys, or, you know, we got Shannon, we got Dan in the audience here. You know, it's like, if anyone out there, if you guys want to, like, and Ian and Ray and everyone else listening out there, we've got double-digit people watching, and I see these two going back and forth. I like it, because I hope that you guys are going to come to a conclusion. But yeah. I think that, you know, what have you guys struggled with recently that has been an issue of you realize that, without even thinking the term reprioritizing, that you have done? Or is there something that you're currently dealing with that you realize that you need to reprioritize your day-to-day life?
I'll go. I think, you know, eating healthier and fitness is one. I mentioned a couple weeks ago on the podcast where I was always black and white thinking when it came to changing the way of eating healthy and working out. It was either I do it perfect or I don't. And for years I've struggled with it. And I struggled with what other people thought of me or how it would look. And it just became this never winning battle. And
you kind of like a yo-yo, like,
oh hell yeah, dude. Like, if I ate something bad 2 weeks into it, I'd give up and just up, screw it. I'm not gonna, you know. And now I'm 50 now, and I'm finally realizing that, you know,
50 and fantastic.
They fantastically 50. With that now, it's, you know, it's not black and white. It's more of a, hey, like, I did good today. I didn't eat the greatest, but hey, there's tomorrow.
Right.
And just in that little, you know, talking to my wife and her actually showing me this really cool video that really just put everything in perspective, it took the biggest weight off my shoulder. And now it's like, if I eat something that's like, we went out and we had dinner on our date, and yeah, I didn't eat the greatest, but I also had some good things. And early in the day, I ate pretty well. And the next day I got back on it, and I wouldn't beat myself up over it.
Even bodybuilders have cheat days.
Yeah. And it's not even that. If I go for a couple days, or I'm at work, you know, and I eat my things that are healthy, and I don't eat as much of the bad shit as I used to, even if just a little bit. I still feel better, and to me, that's a win. But I'm slowly getting to the point now where, like, the other night I ate something kind of like high in carbs and kind of sugary, and I was like, tell my wife, I'm like, man, I really feel a difference now when I eat something bad. It's a lot more noticeable. Like I feel slow. I feel bloated. I lose energy. And then it's like, I'm learning that I'm listening to my body more than I'm listening to what the outside world thinks. And that has been and my wife sees it. And now I'm more focused on my wife and my kid and life in general, instead of just falling into depression and everything else. So, I think that's a big thing. And I think it allowed my wife and I's relationship to even get a little bit better, getting out of that daily rut to like find time for each other, just to give her a hug and a kiss and say you love her, and just have that quiet time, even if it's for 5 minutes, just having that time. And it just makes so much more of a difference now. So
I know for me last year, like when I was first sent home to work in March, we were told, hey, 2 weeks, maybe a month. Like, okay, we're going to push it back another month. We're going to push it back another month. And then it just became, we'll let you know. We'll give you 30 days notice. But I know when the working from home thing first started, I was spending a lot of nights on my back patio. I'd start a fire, smoke cigars, drink whiskey, watch movies on my tablet, and I'd stay out on the patio till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? If this keeps going, if I have to keep working from home any longer, like this is not going to be a good habit to be in. Me staying on the back patio, drinking whiskey till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then getting up to work at 8 o'clock from home, not the best long-term goal or, long-term plan. And so I had to make a shift at some point during last year where I was like, okay, I'm going to work from home. I'm working from home when I'm not, at the shop or here for the podcast. Like, I need to spend time at home with my wife, go to bed at a more reasonable time, and then also get up and actually do something. So last year in the summer, I'd actually started getting up and taking walks. I was working out in the basement after I was done with work. I had to do something different because I realized that spending every night just drinking whiskey and smoking cigars till 2 o'clock in the morning, not the best idea. It was good in the short run.
Yeah, it's the 2 week break that you thought you were gonna have. You're like, this is kind of a little vacation. All right, cool.
I can't sit there and go through a bottle of whiskey every week. Depends on the week.
Seems like week. Oh,
shit. 2 a week, 1 a week, whatever.
What size bottle?
The same size that I was buying a lot of like the
handles.
I was buying a lot of handles of either Old Forester or Heaven Hill.
It's a little bigger than this one.
Yeah, I was a 1.75. So like I was going through one of those
7.5
in a week.
Tack on a bit.
Yeah.
And again, overcompensating.
Yeah.
Overcorrecting.
Yeah.
If you will.
Well, it wasn't an overcorrection. It was just not the good way, other way.
No, but I think okay. Let me throw that out there. Overcorrecting is that if you're stressed or whatever, you're like, I'm gonna have a drink, or I'm gonna, then all of a sudden you go down that slippery slope, and you're like, now this is my focus, is that I want to enjoy myself, right? Call it adulting. Adulting it needs to happen, but if you feel like you're bogged down and all that stuff, you could actually rebel a little bit to your own self, and you overcorrect, and now you're just trying to enjoy yourself.
But a lot of people
call that a midlife crisis.
Yeah. A lot of people would sit there and think,
you're getting your convertible, by the way, Sean.
What now?
A lot of people would sit there and think, oh, you and your wife are both working from home. You guys probably spend a whole lot of time together. No, We weren't, because I mean, I'm working in my office, she's working in the living room, and then after we eat dinner, I'm on the patio, she's inside watching TV. So even though we're in the same house, stuck together, stuck with each other, we're still not interacting with each other.
Right.
And so even though we were around each other all the time, we weren't actually spending time with each other. That was another thing that I realized, like, okay, I could use this as an opportunity to, shit hit the fan. I can use it as an opportunity to make something better. I wasn't spending as much time with my wife. Here's an opportunity for me to do so. I wasn't working out. Here's an opportunity for me to change that.
So what's the priority in your guys' life right now? Do you have a overwhelming priority? Sean, you went through a job change, career change, not job, career.
Yeah.
You've talked about it when you were on the podcast in the more recent past.
Yeah.
You went from how long was your career in
almost
aviation?
Almost 30 years.
30 years, and now you're in kind of a warehouse distribution.
Yep.
Career.
I love it. I was actually in the middle. I'm actually in the middle of applying for another aviation position, but it would be a lot less stressful.
Okay.
It looks good on paper. We'll see if they reach out to me and do an interview. But I think the one thing that I've kind of fallen to a rut and I need to reprioritize is the 4 days that I do work. I work Sunday to Wednesday, and it's very physically demanding. It's just lifting boxes all day and walking a lot. And those 3 days that I'm off, usually Thursday I just kind of chill, but it kind of rolls into Friday and then Saturday where I'm just not really motivated to do much. And that's something I need to reprioritize. I'll go out and mow the lawn and do things, but I feel like there's some time wasted there that I got to find. I got to kind of get up and, it's just like daily chore shit. It's clean up the house and getting laundry done. And it's like the last thing I want to do. And I know that if my wife is listening now, she'd be like, yep, you need to get your shit together. So,
well, it's kind of like what I talked about a little bit last week, like, run on empty last week. Why is it that we work ourselves to the bone at our jobs and then like we get home and we fill our day with doing a bunch of shit?
Yeah.
Now some of that stuff, if you're a homeowner and stuff, I get you got to mow the grass, you got to take care of your property, you got to fix things that break. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, sometimes we just sit there and we're like, I'm going to fill my entire day off with a bunch of stuff. And then you never focus on the things that are at home.
Yeah.
Like you could literally sit there and every single day find some chores and stuff that take you away from your family, even though you're home.
Yeah. But it's usually when my wife's working and my kids at school or at their friends. So it's not like they're all waiting for me to, get these chores done so we can hang out. It's like, it's time where like, I decompress, and I think I decompress a little too much. And then Sunday rolls around, I'm back at it. But I got to find some time in there in between to just get some things done and take, I think it is too, just take some of that pressure off my wife too, because she does a lot of it. And so Ray just wrote, best of luck, Sean, but don't move just for the money. Trust me, brother, I am not moving at all. If this job were to pop up in aviation and be working from home, I took a 60% pay cut to work at Amazon, and I'm happier than I've ever been. So if I go anywhere else, it's going to be on my terms. It's not going to be something where I'm working god awful hours and never having. That's when I was in that industry where I was on 24/7. So I barely had any time for anyone. And it was I was lucky just to be over here with Steve. And this is like my getaway for the week. And even times when I was here, I was still being called, have to go outside and deal with an issue.
Yeah.
So, that will be, I feel like I'm in a good place there where I don't have to worry about like, I need to find this. I need to get this job. I need to land it. I mean, I think I'm in a good position, right? If they tell me, hey, this is what you're going to do, and this and that, and it's one of those where I'm like, well, I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm not going to take it. And I'll stick with what I'm doing because it's awesome.
I've done that too, where, I had opportunities to get back into the cigar industry full time, and I actually passed it up because I was happy where I was, and what that position was, it just didn't feel right. Either the company didn't feel right, the territory didn't feel right. Even though I would have made more money than what I'm making, it just didn't feel right. And so I would rather be content where I am than miserable but making more money.
Yep.
Well, so I think it's about making it work, right? And it's funny. Ray Cheshire says at Limited Brands, we had signs all over the building. He's giving me shit because I'm kind of like letting you guys talk. I was kind of, doing that whole thing when I call it spinning the merry-go-round. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
You just kind of say, I say something and I'm like, and you guys go.
Right.
I mean, you can do that in a fun way too. If you just like start drama and you're like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And then you guys go off.
You're a great host, Steve. I think you do very well leading into stuff like that.
I appreciate that. But like, to Ray's point, he says at Limited Brands, we had signs all over the building, be here now. And he's LOL. That is kind of where I've gotten to. Same thing with you
motto
guys.
at my company too.
And when you're there, that's absolutely it. I also realize that, to continue this podcast and also have a daily life that it sounds so trivial to a lot of people, especially as a single person as I am now, that I have a dog. Everyone's like, whatever, it's a dog and all that stuff. Well, last week, normally Tony, the dog, was inside in the crate and he was fine. You know what I mean? But now he's, again, with me being away so much in the last several weeks, he needs that attention. If I was to prioritize just this podcast, and that's why I rely on the people on it, I rely on that audience out there and in the garage. I got Shannon, he's helping me out, but there's sometimes that balance there that you really have to. And this is more of a metaphor, but it's literal as well, is that I want to make sure that, this other life that I'm taking care of is happy. And
Yep.
I think you guys can use that. So now it's like, if you can see, if I was able to pan the camera over, I had Shannon actually bring over one of the camping chairs so that Tony the dog is now at ease, where before he's walking around, he's trying to get attention. Sean wasn't touching my leg the whole time. He was petting the dog.
So my hand's been down here petting the dog.
The dog's not there anymore. All right.
I'm not touching Steve's thigh. That's what you're thinking. I'm touching the dog.
I said that last week.
I know, but I guess the thing is, it's kind of funny because, I took a pay cut going into this industry, but again, it wasn't my choice.
Yeah.
Much like Sean, it was something that life dealt you a hand, and now it's you play the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're not gonna have all the trump cards. You're not gonna have all the you're not gonna have the great poker hand, but you have to make do, and you have to realize that the game is not necessarily over. You don't have to go all in all the time. But I mean, this is something that it might be a stretch to some of you out there, but I think this is very relevant, is that being able to keep this podcast going. I could easily say, hey guys, I can only do it for an hour because I don't want my dog to do this. And, when I was in a relationship, I prioritize things differently, where this was more the priority at all costs. The job was the priority at all costs. And we're all a work in progress. And so reprioritizing is that I look at something that's very, very simple, that this is the second week in a row, but we started the podcast with my dog in the garage as opposed to in the crate. And he's been going around the garage and all this stuff, and he's kind of not sure what to think. But by being able to keep this conversation going, getting you guys engaged, putting out a product, if you will, an outlet like you talked about, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I rely on other people like you guys in the audience, you guys at the table in the garage, that I can also keep my personal life going at the same time.
Yep.
And again, that might be a stretch for some of you guys out there. And I know it's very, very simplistic thinking, but that is something that I think that you can apply in a lot of ways.
I think another thing you can apply too is, and kind of what Ray just said to you about the sign at work, is staying present. I think that's going to help you reprioritize. Don't get ahead of yourself too much. Don't project too much. Like, hey, I'm going to change this, and that, and the other. But
So
focus.
you were talking about the fitness thing too.
Yeah, it's like focus on the now. And I've said it before on this podcast, and I'll say it again. It's life goes by too fast for you
Ferris
not
Bueller.
to do that. I know.
Ferris Bueller.
Yes, thank you. Bueller. Anyway, so it's important to stop and focus. Like I've noticed that now, even just with a small change of the way I eat and the way I work, fitness and stuff, it allows me to be more present and focused. Where I've been blessed to have a house with the backyard that's got a real nice patio and it's got the woods and there's animals. And I go out there now and I just sit and just take it all in. Whereas before I was just so caught up with it. My mind got in the way and I was so worried about everything and projecting on everything, about how I looked and everything. And now it's like, I go out and enjoy what I have and not just enjoying it, but like when you're doing your job, when you're working out, when you're, that helps you make conscious efforts or decisions. And I think that's a huge aspect to keep. And it's very easy not to do that. It's very easy to fall into what you've had or what has already happened or what's coming forward and focus on that. And that just, you can't reprioritize that way. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can a little bit because you want to look ahead and say, this is what I'm shooting for. Okay. You got the goal set and plan. All right. Now let's just focus on what we're doing today. Where are we doing? What's the starting point?
I like that a lot.
Let's work on it and just baby steps.
Yeah. You worry about
what about Bob?
What about Bob? Now we're just tying in movies. I like it. I'm okay with that. We should do a podcast again on movies and just movie quotes.
Yes.
Yes. No, because there is that saying also, and in the day and age of memes, obviously you see that. But if all you do is focus on the past and the future, you don't focus on today, like you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are you actually doing with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is it starts in the morning. Get up out, I get up pretty early. So there's a few times where I'm like, God, I don't want to get up. Like just focus on getting up. All right, now we're up. Now get ready and get to work. And then I work, with Amazon. And so there's a lot of things set in place that need to be done. And it's very fast paced. And there's a lot of products that I have to, pick from, rafters and, big aisles and shit that are up super high. And it's just like focus on each thing. It's tedious, but it's good because you can't be on those machines that we operate and think about other things. You got to stay focused on what you're doing. So that does help in a way. But then when I get home, it's same thing. I see my wife, I see my dogs. We have a routine. Dogs drop me to the ground and give me kisses and hugs for the first 5 minutes to let them know that, they miss me. And it's like, all right, what's going on tonight? What are we doing? And then you just go from there. So.
Nate?
Wanted to bring up something that I had heard many years ago. Wanted to get your guys' take on it. Mm-hmm. Ray, as we mentioned before, we're now smoking the Upman by AJ.
Yeah, it's the H. Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez.
Yep.
Awesome cigar.
So something I had heard.
And it is quite different than the Días de Gloria.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Something I'd heard many years ago, and I want to get your guys' take on it. You can always see where, or maybe not always, you can see where someone's priority lies by looking at their bank account or credit card statement.
Okay. And what is your take on that?
Well, I mean, there's two things you're going to spend on what's important to you: time and money. Mm-hmm. Money plays a big impact on what we feel is important, I believe. Mm-hmm. So if you sit there and you look at your bank statement, your credit card statement, or whatever it is, what is it that you're spending? What recurring charges outside of bills? What recurring charges do you always see pop up on your statement? Do you see a bunch of bar charges?
Yes.
Do you see?
I thought we were answering these things.
You can. It's going to be different.
Go on.
It's going to be different for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question.
See, bar charges, liquor store charges,
yes.
Cigar shop charges. Yes, I know with us. Yeah.
Get out of my head.
Not the bar.
And are you looking at my statements?
But
awesome.
See, the thing is, like, if you look
Jonathan Herring says Bourbon BS podcast, he's a $20 a month Patreon. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
And everyone else out there, Jody Jacks, who won the prize tonight.
But not those donations, like the Patreon members. We appreciate that. But But no, I'm talking about like, you know, are you always spending time going out to eat? Are you always spending time at the bars? Are you always spending time, you know, at just hanging out at cigar shops? Like, if you're going to the liquor store like twice a week, you know, how much time are you actually spending, you know, hanging out with other people? Or are you just getting a bottle, going home and spending time by yourself?
Yes.
If people were looking at looking at mine, I'll diagnose myself for you.
I do want to chime in here from Ray. No relation between bank and priorities. I want to Ray expand on that while he talks about this.
Well, I think like
the great conversation
because I know I have friends that if you were to look at their bank statements, I mean, they're at the bar 4 or 5 times a week, and it's not just I went to the bar, I had a drink, and then I went home. It's they went to the bar, spent $60 a night, 4 or 5 nights a week. You know,
okay.
So they're hanging out there. If you personally you look at mine.
No, what does that mean though to you?
They're lush.
Well, it could be a couple different
kidding.
things. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're just going out and getting drunk. You know, they could be meeting up with friends and stuff like that, but it's revolving around getting drunk.
So, all right.
I know, like, but if you look at mine, like, you'll see, 2 deposits coming in because I work 2 jobs. I work between both jobs. I typically work around 65 hours a week, depending on the week.
Right.
You know, so I work a lot. I'm at the cigar shop 3 days a week. So obviously there's going to be money spent there because that's where I'm at. But what you don't see on mine is you don't see a whole lot of going out. Very rarely do you ever see.
So what does that mean?
I'm spending time at home. I'm spending time
so
with.
I guess I see what I see where you're getting at, but like, so what is there a better or worse?
It all depends on the person.
Okay.
I'm just saying for me, I mean, I can look at mine and be like, okay, my priority is earning an income for my family. And, you know, I consider doing the podcast a job as well.
Sorry to feel like that.
You know, me buying cigars, one, that's a part of my job because I'm, like on Saturday, I'm working there open to close with Steve. And so we're smoking cigars during our shift. We still have to pay for those cigars. But I'm not just, but if you'll very rarely see charges on my account that are on Sundays.
So that's you. So I guess that's
me.
what I'm saying. What is the, and I'm not trying to make a point here. This is pure conversation, is where are you going with this? When you say that, as far as,
so I
when you look at their spending, let's just not the statements, but you look at someone's spending, what does that say about them? And is it that cut and dry? Ray brought it up. Ray brought it up, and now I want to get to Daniel's comments.
Yep.
So like,
he says, I just don't understand how you could make such a distinction. What are they doing at the bar? He says maybe they do their business meetings at the bar. I look at it as, and again, I don't.
Some people personally that I'm thinking about, that's not what they're doing.
Okay, so what are they doing, and is it a good or bad thing?
Well, so
I think if you
someone that's
side note, if you overextend yourself doing something that inhibits you from doing things that you want, that's the reprioritizing part of it. Getting back to the topic at hand, if all you're doing is going out to the bar and you're spending your disposable income, or maybe more than that, and you can't pay your rent or mortgage, you can't pay your car payment, you can't feed yourself, you want to take a vacation but you can't do that, that's a prioritizing type of a thing.
Correct.
Right? Okay. I don't know if that's where you're going with it, or
so that
if you have the means to do that, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Then you can go to the bar every fucking night. You don't have to get, doesn't mean that if you, trust me, I've spent $60 at a bar and I was not drunk at the end of the night.
No.
I've also spent $60 at a bar and I've been drunk. I've also spent $60 at the liquor store and went home and been drunk. Not always by myself.
No,
So that's, I think that's what I'm getting at.
But I know there are some people that, and some people that are close to me that they're one of those that they're going out to the bar a lot, and it could even be with someone they're in a relationship with, but then they're still complaining about relationship problems with that person.
Is it related to that, or is you think it's a
they're going
byproduct of that?
Well, I think they're going out together, and then one of them or both of them are indulging a little too much,
but getting drunk.
But they're not spending
church it up.
But but then they're complaining about not having a relationship with that person that they're at the bar 4 or 5 times a week with. It's like instead of going to the bar and either you getting hammered or them getting hammered, maybe go home and spend some time together.
Get hammered at home.
Fine.
Bang it out.
Fine, but spend time together is my thing. Like if you sit there and you look at what you're spending.
Daniel says, what if you and your significant other have those same priorities? Would that reflect poorly then? And he's asking your opinion, I assume, based on your comments.
If we have the same priorities, would that reflect poorly?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so, because we're still trying to move the boat in the same direction, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That relationship, we're still trying to, we're doing something together. When I say priority, like it's one thing if you're doing it like a date night, like that's different than you're just doing it like 4 or 5 times a week. You just both happen to be there. Daniel wants to chime in. All right, yeah.
He was just doing like a Rocky warm up in the corner.
Yeah, he was doing a rope a dope.
So
I thought you were gonna hit something.
To go off of your initial statement, though.
Turn him up here. Hang on a second, Daniel.
It's tuned to Sean, and Sean's a little louder in that mic.
Go ahead.
So to go off of your initial statement, if you're looking at their financial statement, you couldn't tell just by that financial statement that they were out there by themselves, or they were out there together, rather.
Either way.
Right. Either way. You couldn't tell.
Either way.
So, but that kind of debunks that a little bit. So you can't just tell by their financial statements what their priorities are.
No, you're right. That's where I go back to the whole thing is that if doing something like going out or, I mean, shit, I spend more money on supplements and nutrition stuff than a lot of people. When I look at it, I'm like, I don't know how these guys can just afford to just travel whenever they want. I think they make a similar amount of money. And then I'm like, well, I spent $100 on pre-workout this month. They did not. You know what I mean? I also do spend a lot of money, going out socially, especially more recently. Again, being single, it's like I think there's so many factors. And I think this is a great conversation because you have this reprioritizing type thing. When you get into financial advice, you're absolutely right, Nate. Like, I mean, it's in a sense that if you're overextending yourself, I think that's where we're at. Or if you are doing things, whether it's spending money or spending time, which is arguably more valuable than money,
mm-hmm.
and it's detrimental to your relationship, to your job. Let's take a step back from these people that you're thinking of possibly, but you spend too much of your effort and your energy doing something that then inhibits something, your relationship, your job, your health, or whatever else. I think that's where it gets into real importance. If you can go out to the bar, to your example, 4 or 5 nights a week, and to Ray's point, you're networking, you're having a social life, and you can still pay your bills. And if you want to take a vacation, you need to do a repair on your house. If you need to pay a medical bill, whatever might pop up. If you can do all that stuff, that's balance. I think. Mm-hmm. Again, I've been that person in the past. I've known a lot of people that you can make more money, but if you live to your means and that's it, doesn't matter if you make $30,000 a year or fucking $250,000 a year, because if you're $250,000 a year and you have that mentality, you got a bigger house, you got a more expensive car, mm-hmm. right? You got all the latest tech, You've been on 4 vacations this year.
You're doing the same thing, just
It's
at a
that
different level.
Well, it's the goddamn commercial where it's like that guy. Remember that? I forget what it was for. You know, it's like he's on a riding lawnmower, and he's like, you know, I'm up to my eyeballs in debt. You know, and he's like got that dead smile on his face. It's like there was several movies. I love that movie, Keeping Up with the Joneses. You know, David Duchovny and Demi Moore. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, it ends with someone actually killing themselves because they're trying to keep up with the appearances. So that's the reprioritizing part of it. I don't care what you spend your money on. And I don't think you guys, it's none of our business what you spend your money on. So when you talk about that, it's like, is spending your time, energy, and money affecting your daily life or what you want to do with your life? You know, it's something that if you're going out to the bars all the time or eating out all the time, you want to have a steak dinner at a nice restaurant 4 days a week, same thing. Take out the drinking part of it. But you're spending that kind of money on that, and then all of a sudden it gets to, you know, Monday, and you're like, well, I guess it's ramen noodles because I'm out of money. As long as you keep your responsibilities in check, I think that's the important part of it.
Well, the whole reason
if you overextend yourself and you get in financial troubles, now you're adding something that is going to exponentially make your life miserable.
Well, the whole reason I brought the question up initially was if everyone did a self-evaluation and looked at what they're spending their money on, could they sit there and go, you know, there are some people that would sit there and look at that and go, do I really need to do that? Could I do something better with that is, you know, better suited for a long-term goal?
Kind of goes with everything.
With what you're talking about, like, you know, like I want to go on a vacation, but I spend too much money at the bar to be able to go on vacation. So if taking a vacation becomes a priority, I need to make some cuts somewhere else in order to be able to do what I want to do.
So
reprioritize.
Budgeting.
That's where I was. Yeah.
Budgeting is a form of reprioritizing or just prioritizing in general. But if you find yourself struggling, that's a great segue into, you know, budgeting, spending your money, your income. You know, if you want to have more income, then you got to figure out a way to get more income and push yourself to do it. If you have a fixed income and you have responsibilities and you want to do other things, now you have to reprioritize or rebudget. I think budget, you're talking about finances. I think that's a very, very good parallel to prioritizing your time, prioritizing your finances. Absolutely.
I got to give
and you throw kids in there, like, you know, like look at Sean. That's one of the reasons I like to have him on this episode talking about this. And I approached him today is, you know, you have you and your wife, 20 years of marriage. You have your daughter who is
13.
Damn.
Sorry.
Hey, you were close. You were in the ballpark.
It's good enough.
And you have 18 animals.
Down to 5 now.
But I'm just saying, like,
what happens to the other 13?
No. You've extended yourself. You've extended yourself to have a family.
Yeah.
So that's you can't go out to the bar 4 or 5 nights a week.
That's why, like I'm with Shannon and Dan over there. We're in this group, and they're always like posting on this app, like, "Hey, I'm going to Fido's," and I'm like, "Fuck, I want to go," but my God, just cigars and beer alone would crush. Like my wife and I give each other allowances. We have our own allowances, so we have to budget every week what we spend our money on because that helps us. So, you know, I got to give my wife props. I mean, she grew up with a father who had his own business and didn't prioritize well financially and ended up going bankrupt multiple times. And she learned from that. And now we're able to, even with the pay cut I took with my new job, we refinanced our house and did some other things, cut some costs, and we're still able to save money every month, which allows us to be able to get a lot of our house, like put flooring in our houses, redid our bathroom, put on a screened-in porch, and then like we're going to Outer Banks in a couple weeks, and then in July we're going to go to out to Arizona, like it's Williams, Arizona, and take a train up to the Grand Canyon, and you know, and what she's doing. The reason behind a lot of these trips that she does is to make memories for Molly.
Yeah.
And one thing I think I've never said this before, since Molly was brought home, just in bringing up the memory thing, is she has a blog that she wrote every day for Molly up until she was maybe 10. And then she does it every like couple weeks or every month. And she turned those into books. And we have books stacked this high, colored, thick books stacked this high from every day. So when Molly's older and she wants to know what her childhood's like, she can go back and read for days and see, and just there's pictures, there's, you know, things that Molly had said.
I love that.
And I just can't, I don't have the bandwidth or the patience to do that. She is talented in that. And along with that and creating memories for Molly, because she never had that with her during her childhood, and she went full circle with it and reprioritized her life to make sure that Molly had the best life she could ever have, and the memories that we're creating and have created. I envy Molly.
Dude, that's amazing.
And you're not just reprioritizing money, you're also reprioritizing time.
Yes. And
you could do other things, you know, outside of spending time with your family, but spending time with your family is a priority.
Yeah. And I think we balance that pretty well too. I mean, we understand like Mama needs some alone time, and I get that. She goes on her walks, and if all hell's breaking loose, I try to like be the like direct people, like, let's get the animals over here, Molly, let's go over here. You know, let's let, because she gives so much all the time that it wears on her. So I try to, and I got to reprioritize of doing better with it, is to give her that time, give her that space. And, you know, so I think that's what just one of the many things that I'm in awe of her with what she's done in our marriage. So, and sticking with me through all the medical issues I've had over the years. I mean, obviously she was going to cut and run, but she made it work. She still made time to make sure Molly had a normal life when I was in the hospital 6 years ago. It's my anniversary of 6 years of having a heart surgery. So, you know, she made that. Thank you. She made sure Molly did not skip a beat. And I encouraged her when I was in the hospital laid up. I'm like, don't stay here. Take care of Molly. Focus on her. I'll be fine. I'm in good hands. If I need you, I'll call you. And of the many times I was in the hospital 6 years ago, I probably spent over a month in different time periods. And I always made sure, and I always apologized to her for every time. I was like, I'm so sorry I'm putting you through this. I'm sorry I'm putting Molly through this. You don't need to be here. Stay with Molly and spend time with her. I'm okay.
So, you know, that's a great example of just prioritizing every aspect of life.
Mm-hmm.
Really is.
Yeah.
Ray's got the solution here, by the way. Make enough money to where you don't need to prioritize. Good advice. Good advice. You got the means. Yeah. Taking it off of that and just, you know, self-worth and I guess, support. I know there was something I read recently that I think really, you know, you even alluded to when you dealt with depression, Sean. And it's something that, you know, I read that, you know, do you give as much importance to positive things that happen that you do to negative things that happen?
Yes. I have more, not all the time. I think I have more lately.
Yeah.
Again, because of kind of the way I've looked at eating and fitness, where that just clouded everything, the way I saw life in general. And not just, I mean, I did it then, but more now, you know, I really enjoyed that time with Teresa last week, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And we kind of realized, hey, you know what? We can do this more than once every 5-10 years,
20 years.
It's like now we're going to reprioritize our relationship and make sure that we spend time with each other alone, whether we go out or just, you know, spend time at home and focus on each other. So,
no, I think, you know, something that, you know, date night can be once a year, you know, it can be once a month, it can be once a week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, life gets in the way enough that it probably can't be, you know, once a day.
You know, and I think this last year has been hard to do that. Get out and do things as much as we, you know, we like to go out and whether it's, you know, go out in public and, go to a nice place and chill. And I think now, like, we got a taste of that last week. So we're like seeing like, hey, we can, and I think it's just going to strengthen and I know it'll strengthen our relationship and for many more years for us to celebrate.
It was such a good experience that it made you realize, like, you know what, maybe I need to change some things in order to be able to do this more often.
Exactly.
Would you say
Exactly.
reprioritize?
Exactly.
Oh, no
hey.
Yeah, I think that's a good
There
word
we
to
go. There we go.
We have a winner.
Wow, it's amazing how the whole thing comes back full circle.
Well,
Wow.
I mean,
Thank you, Daniel.
while we've talked about this, I mean, we've talked about, whether it be spending time with someone or finances, budgeting, stuff like that. I think what's really important is if you're in a relationship with someone, you both have to be on the same page.
For sure.
Well, again, it's a balance thing, right?
If the two of you have different goals, then it's going to be very difficult to reach. You can still reach a place where you're happy. I'm not going to say that if you're going in opposite directions, you won't be happy, but it's going to be a constant. I think it's going to be a little bit more struggle behind it if you're not, if you're both not rowing in the same direction. It's gonna take longer to get to where you each want to go.
Yeah, and so what I want to do now is, let me look at the time.
It's 10.
I was looking at the time. 2 hours total, including the intermission. I want to start getting towards the closing comments, and I'll still go last, but I want to kind of, normally I feel like sometimes I throw some new things on you guys, so I kind of want to give a couple of things that you guys can maybe include in your closing comments. But Ray says this is about priorities or redirection. I think it's again reprioritizing. Couple concepts is one. I know maybe some of you have heard this, but when you talk about spending time with significant others, taking care of yourself, and it's like, I really don't have time to go for a walk. I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to sit down with my family, to sit down at the dinner table. And I'm like, well, I feel like I've also heard you say this, that you just binge watched 2 seasons of a show on Netflix.
You're talking to me, right? Because that's me.
That's a lot of people. So when you talk about time, again, this is reprioritizing. It's like you'd say you don't have time for this or that or whatever else, but you can quote a bunch of movies. You can say that you just binge watch the whole, how many, like 18 seasons of Walking Dead or whatever it is? I don't know. 10 seasons of Walking Dead. What's
it? Like 10.
The other Walking Dead shows.
I know the title of every episode.
10 for 200.
Yeah. And I've also seen, I also like, I just turn on Friends, or I turn on, whatever it might be, like I go back and rewatch them. It's like, oh yeah, you don't have time. You're absolutely right. Your schedule is booked with Netflix. The other thing is what you guys were talking about. I want to introduce this is, you stay on the same page. Nate, you were talking about that you're rowing in the same direction. I think there's also a reflection of self-worth and time for yourself that you include in that, and also role playing, not in the fun way that you guys already went to, Sean, role playing, but
what?
Nothing. But it's also when you're in a canoe. Easy, Daniel. When you're in a canoe, right? So have you guys have been canoeing before? 2 people, right?
Yes.
What does the front rower do, and what does the back rower do as a role in that canoe? Do you guys know?
They're both paddling from opposite sides of the canoe.
The back is steering.
Back is steering,
Yep.
and the front is what? Speed.
Yep.
So knowing the role in the task.
We almost done our relationship canoeing, by the way, when we first started dating.
Nice.
Yeah.
But Sean, go ahead with your closing remarks after that.
Yeah, about the Netflix thing.
I
Yeah,
wasn't attacking you.
No.
Netflix is doing well.
No, but that you're right. I mean, there are times, and that's one of the things I need to reprioritize. Is there are days, especially when I'm off Thursday, Friday, when Molly's at school and Teresa's working, that it's like, all right, I got time to chill. There's nothing going on. Sure, I'll binge watch a little bit, and when I should be probably cleaning the house or doing something, and I think I can. It's all about just everything is in. I can't think of the word. I just went completely blank. It's like not portion control. I'm trying to think. Just balance. Yeah, it's like Jesus. I just completely fucking went dark there.
We never use that term on here.
Yeah. So it's just prioritizing your time, and it's okay to do that stuff, but don't spend the entire day like I do sometimes. Doing that, but so when Teresa gets off work and she's done, it's like, we go walk the dogs and we get a chance to talk and have fun. And sometimes I'm like, man, what Steve said, I don't want to do that sometimes. I'm just like, oh. Because when you get in that sedentary state where you're sitting on a couch and watching TV or whatever, and the last thing you do is get up and just start moving all of a sudden, but I know that that's something that I need to do better on. And so I think that with the bringing this topic up, it's good because it really kind of brought home for me, just talking and thinking about what we've been doing just tonight is shed a light on a lot of things for me with we're doing great, but what we can do better. And a lot of it has to do with me and me being more attentive to being there for Teresa and spending that much time, because there's a lot of time that we can spend together, because Molly's, after they get off school, they go to their friends. So there's no excuse for me not to be able to spend time with her. She likes to walk, and that's fine. But so it's.
Do you feel like that relationship was not the priority at one point recently?
The us spending time and talking and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she gives me shit for it. There's a few times that we've come to a head and we kind of had a blowout, and she's called me on it. And, and that's the thing too, is like I fall back, okay, I'm going to do better. And then I do good for a while, then I fall back into it. And so it's a constant struggle. It's a constant battle with when anybody goes out and reprioritizes. If you fail at it, don't give up.
Love it. Just
acknowledge it, recognize it, and say, what am I going to do to fix it? Are you falling back in that rut? It's about being that present. If I'm the present, I'm going to recognize that. So it's it all falls back into that too. It's that whole, and thank God you brought me on this podcast, because I'm excited about getting up tomorrow and be like, I'm going to spend my time, but not overdo it. And I'm going to also make sure when Teresa's off work, we're going to have some time together.
Yeah, my bill is in the mail.
Okay. You got it, brother.
Well, when you're talking about, your kids at school and your wife's at work, you're talking about, your wife's at work, your kids at school, and you're like, cool, I got the house to myself. I'm going to watch some Netflix. Maybe use that time to get some stuff done around the house. So that way, then when the three of you are home together, then you can actually spend some time together, instead of using that time like, well, I'd like to spend time with you, but
I'm tired now.
I got to mow the grass. I got to take care of this. I got to go to the grocery store.
Yep. And I think working out a little more, like working where I do in my job, I work out. So it's kind of gives me that energy. But I've noticed now that I don't do it as much when I'm not working, but I'm on the path to do that here soon, if not tomorrow. So I know when I do that, it gives me so much more energy. And that's the thing. I know the solution. The solution.
I think a lot of people do.
And once you do it, it's like, why haven't I been doing this since 2 years ago, or whatever? Just why haven't I been doing this the last few months?
It's easier not to.
Right. But once you just take that step and as Tony Horton used to say, just press play, when he's a fitness guru and he's always talking about just play the videos to work out. But it's true. It's just make that get up and move.
Love it.
And once you get that part going, that's better than caffeine or cocaine or any of that shit.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
That'll get. I mean,
Never done it, but I've
you
seen
know,
it in a
maybe
movie.
I could take a bump here and there. I know.
All
No, I'm
right.
kidding.
All
I
right.
never have.
Now
I never
it's
have, and I never
explicit.
will.
Yeah,
This
put a
isn't the
fucking explicit
1980s.
warning on this one.
No, I know I'm not gonna. I've never have. You can. Yeah, but sorry, I'm railing, guys. Sorry, but it's just
See you railing?
rambling.
Oh,
Do you want me to rail?
I was gonna say Steve knows what it's like to take a bump, but that wasn't cocaine. That was
yeah. You can't say that.
No, but I'm not saying that
That
I
was
did.
Not you, Nate.
that was citric acid.
Well, and then there's so many questions here now.
But bottom line is just thank you again, Steve, for this topic. It sheds a lot of light on what I'm doing and what I
Thank
need
you
to
for being
do.
a part of it.
Yeah, and I love being a part of it. It's a truly I enjoy it. I love sitting and being in the audience every week, but to be on here to be able to put my 2 cents in, it just means the world to me. So
I want to throw it in here that Ian and Ray have come to peace a while back.
have they
but-
kissed and made up?
Well, so yeah, they were measuring something. It wasn't what you might think, but it was actually distances from us that Ray is putting his time out there to be 5,000 miles away. Jonathan Herring was like over 1,000, and Ian's about 450 miles away. And I appreciate you guys tuning in from all over the globe. But Ian says, you know, to your point, it's your job as a parent to create an environment that mimics the world they are going to launch into. That way, when they get there, there isn't the anxiety and depression and self-loathing. They are equipped to handle the real world, not as he says, wished for the world.
Mm-hmm. I give my wife a lot of credit for that too, because Molly, we adopted her from China, so she's Asian. So we've kind of prepared her for that. You know, there's been some issues with that in the past, so we prepared her for that. And she identifies as non-binary and she's gay, and we support her in that. And you know, we also prepare for the fact that there's a lot of people that don't agree with what she stands for, and she knows that we and our family and close friends have her back 100,000%.
100%.
And I got a lot of boys back here that'll take care of business if somebody gives her shit, starting with Mama Bear, because she will fuck some shit up.
I think you have people from 5,000 miles away. You got people from over 1,000 miles
Yeah.
away. And
Yeah.
480,000 miles or 400
Yeah,
miles
so
away.
but
Or 10 feet away.
but we right, exactly. I got all my boys here, man. But you know, but that's nothing that we hide from her. We or them. I always go by they, them, or them. But we it's nothing we hide from them. And to make sure that they are prepared.
Yeah.
And you know, they're a unique person in the sense that they are Asian, not totally unique, but they have their own way, and a lot of people don't agree with it. So they'll be ready to go, and if they have problems, they know where to go to.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, Nate.
So
And thank you, Sean, for being a part of it. You thanked me for the
Absolutely.
topic, but the topic's only good. It's only as good as the conversation that follows it. And you have absolutely brought just a shit ton to the table. And I
Thanks.
appreciate you as a friend and also as a supporter of doing this. And you don't balk at, when I ask you to be a part of it, because I feel like, when I talked to Nate about, like wanting to have more guests on the podcast, we had a great industry guest last week, a couple of them, but even having someone local, I think, you speak volumes to the community at large that listens to the podcast. And it's funny that, again, 3 white guys in this day and age sitting in a garage in a suburb of Midwestern America.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually open your ears to it, to your point about Molly as well,
Mm-hmm.
you open your ears to people, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just about life experiences and what you're dealing with and what you've dealt with and how you handle it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you bring
the conversation's been so much better without it being just the 2 of us. And that's where we rely so much on those around us and people that are part of the community.
We'll get Tony on the mic here.
Arf. But no, I mean, last night before the podcast, Steve, you and I were talking about, like, this is a topic that we need to have another voice on.
Yeah.
Like, we can't have, this topic is too important for it to be just the 2 of us. We have to have someone who's actually gone through something recently where the reprioritization is something that is important in their life, something that they've realized. Because yes, you and I have gone through that, Steve, but we've also talked about that in the last several months.
Absolutely. It's always great to have a different voice at the table.
Absolutely.
So your closing remarks, what do you think?
Guys.
So leading up to the closing remarks, you talked about time. We all have 24 hours in a day. Every single one of us. We have the same amount of time in a day to get shit done. It's up to you to determine how you spend that time. You're going to spend that time on what your priorities are. Whether it be your job, whether it be your home life, you can sit there and work 80 hours a week and not spend any time with your family whatsoever. And chances are your family relationships are going to suffer for it. Or you can spend all your time at home and not spend any time at work, and your work's going to suffer for it and could lead to your income suffering from it, which then could bleed into other areas. But with the whole reprioritization, what do you want? I think all of us have to look at what we spend our time on and then have an in-depth conversation with ourselves about what we want to spend our time on. Like, what are we doing and how does that line up with what we want to do? And I think something that's important is making sure that those two things actually line up together. Because, if you bring up family, like, hey, you know what, I want to have a better relationship with my family. Well, then chances are spending 80 hours a week at work probably not going to help that. Or, you're working your job, but then you're spending your off time outside of the home. Like, it's probably not going to help your home life. So what are you doing and what do you want to do? And I think sometimes you have to work that backwards. You have to look at the end goal.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want at the end of this journey? And then start working backwards. Like, what steps do I need to take to get there? And then if these are the things I need to do, am I on that path? And if you're not on that path, that's when you need to make some changes. And sometimes those changes may have a negative impact on other areas in the immediate future. But again, you're looking long term, because if you're only looking at the short-sighted goals, then the end result may not be what you want it to be. So it's a difficult conversation that you have to have with yourself. Sometimes it's important to have your own board of directors and maybe bounce that off of them. Like those of us that are in the garage, like, we can all go to each other for advice. Like, here's what I want to do. What do you think I need to do to get there? And if someone goes, well, I think you're spending too much time, or you're spending too much money or too much effort on this, maybe change the scales a little bit. Maybe not necessarily perfectly balanced, because if you want to get where if you have a goal in mind, you're going to have to sacrifice something, whether it be time, energy, money. In order to get there, you're going to have to sacrifice something. So you brought up earlier, Steve, the finances. My wife and I, when we budget, like, we have goals in mind for what we want to do. In order to achieve those goals, we make sacrifices in other areas. But the important thing is we are both on the same page when it comes to those sacrifices. So we're both willing to give up certain things in order to achieve a desired goal.
What if she didn't agree?
Well, then that's a very heartfelt conversation that the two of you have to have. And it's not going to be an easy conversation.
Okay.
And it shouldn't be an easy conversation, because you're both pulling in different directions. There has to be some sort of compromise, or one of you is just going to have to give up entirely. But if one of you gives up entirely, then chances are that person is going to be miserable. even though you might be going in the same direction, if that person doesn't want to go there and they're just along for the ride, like if the person,
well, it depends on the gravity of the situation, right? If it's like, where do you want to go on vacation versus, what do you want to do with the house in 5 years?
Well, it's a different conversation. Where do you want to go on vacation versus do you want to go on vacation?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we can go on vacation, but you know what? We have this house. Let's take care of the house. Let's focus on actually having a house that's going to, be standing and, not going to leak every time it rains.
Yeah, roofs are important.
roofs are important. Who thought? It's not just 4 walls. But you have buckets. You have to have that conversation with that other
bed a couple times.
You have to have that conversation, and it may be a difficult conversation. It may not be an easy conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
And if you're both in opposite camps when it comes to that, so if one person is prioritizing the house and one person is prioritizing a vacation, and then you save up money and you go on vacation, the next time it rains and the roof leaks, the person who wanted to save up money for the house is going to be pissed off and it's probably going to throw it in that person's face.
Can. Yeah, absolutely can.
It doesn't always happen, but it very easily can.
Yeah.
So, but if the two of you both sit there and go, you know what? Let's save up for a vacation instead of having a house, or instead of, having a roof that doesn't leak. When the roof leaks, guess what? You're both at fault.
Yeah.
So then you realize, was the vacation worth it? Should we have saved up money for something else?
Okay.
As long as you are in agreement.
So you communicate.
Yes.
There you go. Mm-hmm. So I am of the opinion when you are prioritizing things, the first step is to figure out, we talk about happiness, but what is important to you? I think that we talk in circles in a sense that not talking round and round about it. I think that when you are looking at this, you're prioritizing your day to day. Sean, you brought up, when you wake up and what are you going to do with your day? You have to always start with yourself. This is if you're in a family situation, you're working for someone else, you have a job. It doesn't matter what the circumstances may be, but it's always about the base of yourself. If you rely on outside factors to make you feel happy, or if you rely on outside factors, and this is your, Sean, your wife, who's a saint, I love her to death.
Thank you.
I don't always agree with her.
It's okay. I don't either.
Exactly. But my point is,
shit, did she hear that?
Yeah, she's watching. I think she just texted me. No, I'm just kidding. So no, but it's like you always have to start with yourself. It's the home base. Start inward and work yourself out, because I think that is something, no matter what your goals are with your day, with your life, whatever it might be, whatever you are reprioritizing, you have to, again, my opinion is you have to figure out what makes you your best self of that day, right? And where you want to go from there. It's not about being necessarily selfish, but you can call it selfish that when one of your priorities might be, Sean and other people out there, or anyone out there, is that one of the things that makes you happy, and this is kind of a twist of the words, but one of the things that makes you happy is that you make a certain person in your life happy.
Yep.
So that's okay. You can't rely on that, because now you're putting all of that importance on that other person now communicating with you that they're happy, and they may not be able to do that. Mm-hmm. So you have levels of important people in your life, or important, like, it's okay. Like, you see all these like entrepreneur podcasts, it's better to work for yourself and all that stuff. It's fine if you want to make your boss happy. If that's the only thing that makes your career and your job life worthwhile, now there's a self-assessment there where it's like that's not always the case, because now you're relying on that person and they have all the layers of the onion in their life that you might fucking kill it that day, but all of a sudden they just are like, like, hey, what, everything cool today? Like, yeah, it's fine. And you're like, oh God, now he's not happy, she's not happy, like, oh my God, like, what do I need to do? Same thing with your spouse, same thing with your significant other, same thing with any other third party. But first and foremost, start small, which is you. And I'm not saying you're small. Obviously, it's like you start with that small circle and then you build off of it and you get wider and wider and wider. Anyone that is, in my opinion, successful when it comes to finances, like Nate was talking about, family life, like you're talking about, Sean, career, just health, fitness, just really anything, the house, whatever it is, any of your surroundings, you have to start with yourself, because if you just constantly are putting everyone else before you to dictate whether or not that you are pleased with your life, you won't do it. That's not the reprioritizing, in my opinion, is put yourself first, so that then therefore you realize what's going to make you happy, but you also realize that you can't make everyone else happy. And the sooner you realize that the only way that you can truly add value to your surroundings, whether it be your family or people around you, friends, your job, any of your efforts, your energy that you put out into your daily life, you really need to know what your home base is. And that is looking yourself in the mirror and correcting things, so that when people call on you, and one of your priorities might be, I don't believe in that shit where people are like, I don't care what people think. Fuck you. Yes, you do. That sounds good. It looks good in a meme, but no, you absolutely do, or else you wouldn't do some of the things you're doing, right? So you have to get to the point that what makes you happy could be other people's happiness. But again, put yourself first, because other people's happiness could be fleeting, just run away with you, and you're just left there. I was going to say something profane. You're left there not knowing what happened. Like, I did everything and I got fired. I did everything and my wife, my husband, my significant other is unhappy with me. I don't even know what to do. I put them first all the time. That is probably the problem, is that you put their happiness before yours, and therefore you aren't happy yourself, and you are relying on other people to validate your day-to-day actions.
Can I comment on that?
See, this is why I
just want to comment.
I love it.
Okay. I thought you're mad.
No, I'm not.
No. I just
was
because
looking for validation.
No, you absolutely. I know. I totally get it.
Validate me.
I validate the shit out of you, brother. No, but what you're saying is like, it's like you're talking to me, because when I struggled with working out and eating better for other people to recognize, I worked so hard to lose weight for people to recognize, or when I worked for a micromanaging CEO that I always was trying to impress him. Even if you got that recognition one way or another, it's empty. Even if they say good job or attaboy or you look great, you build up this expectation to think that it's going to be such this great, like, oh my God, it's great. It's so empty feeling. Even it's like, great. Okay. He said great, or you look great. Now what? I lost weight.
Wait. Now what?
Yeah.
Now you're looking for the next validation. Now you're looking for the next.
It's never ending.
Pat on the back.
It's never. When I had that heart thing, I was working out and losing weight. I lost 45 pounds. I got to my goal weight, and people were like, "Oh my God, you look great!" And it was like, "Great," but then it was like, again, now what? It was so unfulfilling because I didn't look inward. I never looked inward. So sorry, I had to comment on that because it hit home so much. So thank you.
So. You're welcome. You're welcome.
How do you think this cigar pairs with the?
Oh, Jesus. Now we're back at that. Pairs very well. No, pairs very well. I look at it as So bring back to the cigar world, right? You know, like you got a guy like we've had on the podcast more recently when we had Tyler on, we had Eric Espinosa, and he is a very realist. You know what I mean? He can make cigars that only he likes, but he is the first to say, he's like, no, I like my cigars, but I'm also in business to sell cigars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's again, that is a self-assessment that he can make his own cigars with the tobacco that he buys and blends, you know, to he has his own personal stash.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have your goals set and you have that self-realization that you get to that point where it's like, well, yeah, if I just made cigars that I like, I might go broke because everyone else may not like my cigars. Does that make sense? But if you take that personal identity with it, you're like, well, I don't know why they like them. I love these cigars. These are the best cigars. I've talked to those people in this industry. This is, again, a very good parallel that I'm doing everything that I think that I enjoy. I don't know why people don't like it.
I've actually heard that
That's
rumor
when the people are like,
with a particular cigar manufacturer, where people were saying that the person who is the name of the cigar company that blended the cigars, they were only blending for themselves and not for the masses.
So that's my point, is that when I said that, you know, and I know Ian had a comment there, it's like, you know, it's something that it's like, you know, yeah, you can be all confident. You can say you don't care what people think. But I think that the majority of people, making people, like, giving yourself value by providing value to other people in your life that you care about, or maybe not even care about, but you want to provide a value there to other people. You have to start with yourself first. That was my point, is that you start with yourself, but then you branch out.
Mm-hmm.
We are a very, very social species that we have to coexist. So if you're that person that, if you're that random hermit out there that you're just like, get off my lawn, I don't want to talk to you, I got my thing and all that stuff, it's like, you still got to make money somehow. I mean, if you're in the woods at some point in history that you can just, you know, be a hunter and gatherer on your own,
live off the land,
cool, that's fine, but that's a very, very small minority. That was my whole thing. The closing remarks is truly, no, I think that's great, is that you really have to have a self-assessment. Why are you reprioritizing? Why are you prioritizing your life that way? And it's a constant thing. And that's, I think, what we really hit on. That was my closing remarks, is that when you start small, you have to do that whole thing we talk about a lot, is that you put your mask on first before you put your masks on other people. It's the same thing. It's,
talking about the airplane.
Healthy. Yeah, you got to stay healthy. You have to. Mental health is important. Physical health is very tied into it. And if you don't take care of yourself,
hand in hand.
What's that?
They go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. I mean, you can't really get that prioritizing mentality if you don't put yourself first.
Well, I think we talked about that when we did the whole give or take topic. Like, you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to be in a position to give to others.
Help
Absolutely. That's
before you help others.
That's what I'm saying. So that being said, guys, you know, I appreciate you guys being a part of the podcast tonight. I think this was a great conversation. Sean, thank you for being a part of it. We had people, you know, Ray, Ian, Elena, we had Jonathan Herring on here. We had Daniel in the audience and also on the podcast feed. You guys, the conversation is amazing. That's why I love doing this live. You guys really, really bring another level to this podcast.
For sure.
So I thank you very much for being a part of it. And if you guys want to continue the conversation, the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook is available. If you guys aren't a part of it yet, just go ahead and add yourself to it, and I will approve you. I love the community. I love what we're doing here. This is something that, as we go, we're coasting through 2021. We're about to be in June.
It's insane.
It's insane.
Preseason football is like 2 months away, by the way.
That's right.
Oh, stop
crazy,
it. Stop it.
Crazy.
So, yeah, thank you guys very much. Guys, enjoy yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Look at this topic tonight as reprioritizing your life. You might have actually brought something to the table, whether you're listening live or afterwards. But if you guys have comments, just bring them to us. And I really enjoy the conversation. I love the fact that Sean, you say, thank you for bringing this topic. These are the things that people need to talk about, because as everything is just going, 100 miles a minute in a whirlwind around you, that brings it even more impactful to what I was saying, in my opinion, is that start with yourself, because you have to really start there. Cheers, guys. Thank you to our sponsors, Tinder Box of Easton, Altadis USA, BS Cigar Company, and also patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. You guys have made a great impact on my life. And I'll say just enjoy tomorrow, Thursday. I think it's Thursday, where Ray was already listening. So Ray, let us know how Thursday pans out for you, so we know what to expect.
Please.
And take care of yourselves. Love unconditionally. Cheers, guys.
Oh, nice.
That was nice.